Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 245 for the week of January 26th, 2016. My name is Ryan Higgins, who's with me this week.
I don't think you're Ryan Higgins today. I think you're irritated at things, Ryan Higgins.
That I am.
Brock Sager.
And Charlie.
We should have Bryce here in a few minutes. I think he's running a little bit late, but we need to get started.
Man, that Caltrain is so reliable.
Well, this is one of those great weeks where everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. Our entire diamond shipment for this week is missing. So I am going to be refreshing my phone constantly, seeing if FedEx updates it. I have not shut off the store phone or my cell phone because there's a possibility in the middle of this podcast I'll get a call telling me where my books are. Normally, we have these books about 12 hours ago, so wonderful. I'm going to have a very long Wednesday, or a very short Wednesday if we don't have comics tomorrow. I'll close early. The fun of comics retailing. This happens occasionally.
Well, and the other best part is the internet keeps going out.
Well, that was just once.
No, I think it's still acting up.
Seems
So
fine
if
now.
music mysteriously comes on, it's because we didn't turn it off. The internet just went out.
No, I shut it off. I shut off the internet. I shut off the music. I mean, Pandora's closed. So the plan this week was to discuss a whole big stack of Marvel number ones, which we're probably still going to do a bit. Talk about Legends of Tomorrow. Talk about all sorts of other stuff. And then Friday afternoon happened. Or so Friday morning happened, I should say.
Wait, so this was your plan going into this week?
Yeah.
Before the weekend hit?
Yeah, before Friday hit. So Friday, a little site called Bleeding Cool Comics. Or sorry, Bleeding Cool. It's a comic book and
I hear you've been on that
rumor site
before.
I've been on there
a
couple times. Couple times, yeah. I've talked to Rich a few times. I don't spoil shit. It's Twitter. It's public stuff. People could quote you all you want on there. He dropped a pretty big bomb, so we're going to go ahead and talk about this for a few minutes and then talk about, talk a lot about this, actually. So Rich Johnson runs Bleeding Cool, put up an article that said that they've been running a number of stories about upcoming changes expected after the publication of the issue 52s of the remaining comics that have the number 50 that will reach number 52 in May from DC.
Okay, because I'm like, they're going to have to wait a long time to get Earth 2 Society up to 52.
Yeah, it's the original ones. It's Batman, it's Superman, it's Action, it's Detective, those titles, Justice League.
Catwoman, Green Arrow,
yeah, Green Lantern, yeah, Flash. So according to them, there's going to be some name changes to books, some books going bi-weekly. Scott Snyder is off Batman. He's transitioning over to Detective because Batman's going bi-weekly, so he's going to go over to Detective. We knew Greg Capullo's off. But there's more to it than that. This is the direct quote from Bleeding Cool. It says, I understand that a top-down change has filtered through the publisher, which will see another relaunch for DC Comics, with everything getting a new number one in June, those that survive, that is. And the new line will be even more dominated with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and Harley Quinn/Suicide Squad-related titles. Anything tying in with a film or TV show like Flash, Green Arrow will be okay. Anything that is not is less likely so. I haven't heard about Green Lantern. But yes, this will mean another big number one issue relaunch. Could this be all new, all different? A bit like the TV shows DC Comics. So, yeah. I had a lot to say about this. A lot of the internet had a lot to say about this on Friday. As the day progressed, So, here is all we know for sure. A single tweet was sent out by Dan Didio, Jeff Johns, and Jim Lee.
I think you have the artwork for this week's podcast.
That'll be the artwork for this week's podcast. Nothing else. But a single message was sent out by the three of them, and then later other creators commented in various fashions. That was a blue curtain, like a movie theater curtain kind of deal. That just said, written over it, hashtag rebirth. So the only thing we know for sure is that DC Comics is planning something called hashtag rebirth.
Well, I think it's called
so
Rebirth.
far, all the Rebirth comics have been good. So it should be good.
We will now discuss this for an hour, okay? I have 4 pages of questions from our good friend Stefano. I'm not joking. Literally 4 pages of questions.
So you should have printed it out for us all to read.
I got them on here. We'll go through this. We'll go through a bunch of these.
Yeah, Stefano, I like how you get a package sent and there's no shout out to me. Thanks. Appreciate that guy.
Brock packs it. He knows what's up. So... you guys probably have your opinions on this. Yeah. Let me give you a broad overview of my feeling and what I'll rehash a bit of what I said on Twitter. At the end of the day, if this is about having a new Batman #1 with 18 variant covers, there's no reason to do this. Mm-hmm. If this is about taking what we've learned from the New 52, taking the better elements of it, taking the classic elements of the books that I think a lot of people miss, getting editorial on board, streamlining the company, getting a long-term plan, signing these people to long-term agreements, having not just, we got 6 issues and then we'll figure out the rest. No, an actual plan. And if this happens once and not 3 times like Marvel's done in the last 5 years, I'm okay with it. But if it's simply shuffle a few creators around and...
Well, if it's a market share grab.
If it's about, at the end of the day, solely to sell a couple variant covers for #1 and grab June's market share, then DC, stop. You're embarrassing yourself, because we have now 5-year sales history of Marvel to see how this is, especially with the all-new, all-different Marvel stuff, how poorly this is done. And the quality of the title is almost not important. We've seen the Marvel sales plummet in this most recent all-new, all-different relaunch. Yes, the #1s are high. They're nowhere as high as the previous #1s, which were nowhere as high as the previous #1s. But they instantly... We have the December sales charts. We're going to get January very shortly. We have the sales analysis through November. The #2s and #3s are already down 60, 70, 80% in some cases on these titles. That is, it's fake sales. Those #1s are don't hold. New 52 held those numbers longer. Marvel held it initially, then down, and now it just plummets. It doesn't work. It worked. It did work at one point. We thought it worked. It worked short term. But that's the case now, where it's hey, train delayed, arriving at Sunnyvale at 7 o'clock. All right, Bryce. Hey, that's why I got my phone on. See, Bryce can tell me he's not going to be here for a while.
And then when he listens to this one, he'll be like, "Damn it!"
Well, he'll be on by the time we talk about the Marvel #1s.
So he doesn't have to sit through all this.
Yes, you can skip the DC stuff. Yeah. So that's sort of my feeling. We have a lot of questions here from Stefano, which he sent me. Thank you so much. He sent me a ton of great questions here, so we'll get to that. But let me reply to Bryce, and you guys give me your 2-minute kind of idea here. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm in agreement with you for, if this is a market share grab, just stop right now. If this is about kind of retuning and like adjusting and like you said, bringing kind of quality back to it, where we're taking elements that work and elements that people have enjoyed in the past and bringing them kind of to the forefront, I think it really, really pans out. Now, this whole thing of, we're going to do this on a constant, or, we're going to do this over again, that's fine if it's something where, again, you have a long-term plan in place. I don't mind having Volume 4 or Volume 3 of Batman if Volume 2 was 52 issues, and then this one's going to go for at least 50 to 75 issues. Like, I don't mind having volumes like that. Like, Marvel's like, we're treating it like TV seasons. You can't treat it like TV seasons. They're comics. You need a longer period of time, I think.
I'm kind of starting to feel differently about that, and part of that actually has to do with the trend with a lot of the trade paperbacks and the hardcovers and that kind of stuff. There's starting to be much more of, and you had this to a degree with some of the long-running teams on comic books and whatnot, but you're seeing a lot more of the, like, here's a hardcover of just the Lemire Green Arrow, here's a hardcover of just the Scott Snyder Swamp Thing, here's the Dan Slott run in nice large trade. Like, that's getting to be sort of a new normal in terms of when you get to putting out the trades and that kind of stuff. Well, so if they really want to make it clear when they do these creative team shifts, instead of issue 20 was awesome, issue 21 sucked because the creative team changed on it. I didn't realize, like, as a kid, I remember it being super jarring from one issue to another when like the creative team would just massively change and the quality would drop. And I always ended up buying a couple issues before I'd realize I can't read this anymore. And I kind of feel like nowadays the creative teams on books have gotten much more important than if it's issue number 32 or issue number 1. It's more about what team's on the book and what quality you're going to get from that book, as you said. So if they want to start, as you say, signing people on for longer runs and keep the numbering going during that run and then restart it, making it clear when there's going to be a creative shift, I can kind of get behind that. What I can't get behind is the idea of, okay, we're going to have this creative team on it for 3 issues, and then they're going to leave the book, and then this creative team's going to come on for 3 issues, and they're going to leave the book. I guess the take I have on a lot of this is at the beginning of the New 52, there was a lot of excitement about what was going on, and not all of it was around, ooh, it's all new number ones. There was a lot of differences going on. You had some super strong teams like Azzarello on Wonder Woman, Snyder on Batman. There was a massive amount of buzz around like Animal Man and Swamp Thing and everything that was going on with those books. All that, in a lot of ways, was kind of based on the creative decisions that were made around those books. Not necessarily because, ooh, we're shiny new number ones. It was because people picked up these books at issue 1 because of the buzz around it and went, holy crap, these books I did not expect to be as phenomenal as they are.
Well, I'm completely in agreement with that whole sense that, artists need, or creative teams need to be on longer term than a 6-issue mini or a 12-issue thing. It needs to be a lot longer in the duration. Swamp Thing's the tricky one because I think Scott Snyder did a really good job in the initial forefront of Swamp Thing, and Charles Soule picked it up and kept the same feeling, throughout, and the art stayed very, fairly consistent for what it was.
Yeah, I'm okay if a creator gets 18 issues in 24, even if it's 12, as long as it's done well. My complaint with the New 52, and I think everyone's complaint, was we didn't even get 2 or 3 issues for some of these creative teams. They were gone. Most of the creative teams were gone by 12. A good chunk of them were gone by 6. Most of the books were canceled by 18 or 24. That's the type of planning that I'm talking about. That, I love a lot of the DCYOU titles, but I will be perfectly honest, and we've talked about this, there's too many of them, and the pitch for those were not strong enough, and maybe had some of these launched with the New 52, they would have done better, but it's tough. Now, if DC's moving forward to have more stuff tie in with the shows, not tie in. I don't want stuff to tie in with the shows. I want a book that
you want relatable content.
If you have a book, if you have a Supergirl TV show, you should have a Supergirl comic that is tonally similar to the show. A classic take on Supergirl that is, if not extremely kid-friendly, at least some form of all ages. I want a classic Supergirl. Green Arrow tends to be a little bit darker, so that's fine. Obviously, Suicide Squad's can be very dark. That's fine. I don't need a kid Harley Quinn book. I don't need an adult Supergirl book. The New 52 Supergirl just wasn't the Supergirl they have on the TV show. But what's great about the TV shows and movies is I find they sort of distill these characters down to their essence. And like Charlie said earlier, Rebirth is not an unknown name to DC, right? If this is taking Jeff Johns' Rebirth mentality to the DC characters, taking the classic elements, but putting a little bit of a modern spin on it, giving it a long-term plan. Flash and Green Lantern obviously had very long-term plans post-Rebirth. That is a strong point for DC Comics going forward. Batman, I'd like a return to the more classic take in the Batman family, but Batman himself is fine. Superman, I want a bit of a classic return. Teen Titans, I definitely want a classic return, and I think we're seeing that in Teen Titans Hunt right now. Wonder Woman, I'm okay with the changes they made. I would actually keep her the way she is now. I think she's a stronger character and a better character. But again, you're taking that sort of... The Wonder Woman now doesn't destroy the old Wonder Woman. It's an additional layer added on top. Whereas I find too much of the New 52 destroyed the old versions, and that's a bit hard to swallow. You can have the Justice League formed by fighting Darkseid. I'm totally okay with that, but you got to find a way to do that right. I'm okay with it not being Starro. I'm okay with it being Darkseid, but you should have a lot. Martian Manhunter should be part of the team. You should acknowledge the classic teams. Just change the backstory a little bit. Iron Man isn't in Vietnam. Iron Man keeps updating his wars, but the general idea is still there. And I think that's what DC needs to do. And I hope they do.
Yeah. I mean, and I think at the end of the day, it's all about quality of books that they're going to bring to the table. You know, have your solid titles that you know are going to be big sellers like Batman and Justice League and you know, the core books that you have. And then you have your mid-range books that are, you know, possibly like Suicide Squad tie-ins with, I mean, Suicide Squad's low, but books that would tie into connecting people to either Batman or Justice League or something in the movies. And then you have kind of the rotating bottom half, which is not as many titles as like the DCU had, but maybe have those titles that, yes, these are 6 titles that the creative teams get a 6-issue shot. If it's, you know, if it's well received and successful enough, then we can continue with this.
Yeah.
If not, it's just considered a mini and we have another thing ready in the pipe.
There's a quote here real quick from Bleeding Cool on one of their other articles about it, where it says, you know, expect more Supergirl comics, but not necessarily modeled after the TV show. The aim is the comics should lead, not follow, which I agree with.
No.
But tonally, Supergirl is a perfect example where the show hits the tone of Supergirl much better than the comic. So in that case, take the knowledge you've gained from the show and apply that to the comic, but then make the comic the leader, right? Because the show nails the tone of Supergirl.
I mean, the best example is the Walking Dead books.
Yeah.
You know, Walking Dead, the show, AMC, and all of them took the essence of Walking Dead and moved, you know, transferred it over to TV flawlessly. I mean, you know, we have changes. We have different things that are going on in the TV show versus things that are going on in the comic. But the essence is there. But the comic, in my opinion, the comic, because I'm biased, leads over the show. But in this case, I think the show, because of how big it is, has now become the forefront. But it's not leading what the comic book's doing.
So the way I look at this to a degree is when you end up with like the Walking Dead show, it brought in Kirkman and he brought in to sort of creatively consult, where he may not write every episode. You may not even necessarily get the final say on what they do with certain things. And obviously there's some politics and just having actors and all that you kind of have to deal with. But at the end of the day, it kind of felt like they were taking a very good amount of direction from the foundation that he set up for all those characters and what they could do with them. I guess what I would kind of like to see more of, and you kind of see this actually when they would do some of the weekly mini series and that kind of stuff, is I really like the idea of we have a firm vision of where we're going to start with issue 1 and where we're going to end with issue 52. We have this year-long story we're going to tell. It's all going to be sort of mapped out with the beats we want to hit on which issues, and then we'll divvy up writers to write to that.
But it changed. Remember, 52 changed pretty strong after they started it, because they were like, oh, wait, we actually like some of these characters, and they did change stuff, which is always going to happen.
But I guess what I'm saying is you get that same kind of narrative in TV shows that works the same way. As characters work better, they shift things around. But what I like about that is I'm becoming very, very much a fan of the idea of the TV show pitch for comic books. I don't even care if it's the same person doing the pitch, writing all the issues, or if it's because when Jeff Johns was doing Green Lantern, he kind of set all the kind of tones of where things were going, and then he had the writers of Green Lantern Corps and Emerald Warriors and all that kind of following his lead for the overall.
Marvel has basically that same idea where they have their meetings once a year where they're like, here's the Avengers books going forward, here's the X team going forward. I don't think DC does that, and it shows that there's, I feel, sometimes not a lot of continuity between in the New 52. They try, but it doesn't always work.
But I guess what I'm saying is I kind of feel like they need to bring some of that mentality into the books again. And they need to have, like, just to kind of throw it out there, but this is kind of evolved from the idea of when Johns ended doing Green Lantern, I was just kind of like, was Johns even involved in this pitch for where they were going to take Green Lantern from there? Like, they announced the team, then the team changed at the last minute because of creative issues and stuff. But what was promised in a lot of those initial interviews and stuff about the teams taking over, like, there were interviews specifically talking about how they wanted to make it more procedural, and like none of that actually is what came out.
No,
and
not at all.
I kind of feel like some of these, like, to me, especially after elevating Greenland to that level, I would love there to have been more of a sort of like pitch for where you are going to take Green Lantern next season that has to get greenlit by key people involved in that sort of transition. Because to me, the worst thing about comic books in a lot of ways is sometimes you get a Jeff Johns leaves Flash and the new creative team kind of takes over flawlessly. And then other times you get Jeff Johns leaves Green Lantern and the new creative teams starts dismantling large portions of it and just killing the sales. And
with editorial, a lot of people have complained about DC editorial in the past through the majority of New 52 that they're very wishy-washy, changing their mind at the last minute. Yeah. They're never very focused. They approve one story and do something else. One of these articles from Bleeding Cool does basically say the same thing, that they're double pitching, or they're accepting double pitches from various creative teams for the same title, and they may not even know that that's what's happening. And that type of mentality is really fucked up. You need to go in with a solid plan, not pit the creators against each other. So again, if we go into this with a solid plan, but it's the rug's pulled out from under them after 6 issues, that's really bad.
And that's sort of where I'm kind of like, and like the first thing I thought with some of the buzz around this, which is frustrating me, is just we don't really know exactly what's going on here. And I know to a degree, creators like Jeff Johns obviously is going to get on board with whatever the message that they decide to put out is, because
hopefully he's some major part of it.
Yeah. But that's the thing. We don't know how big a major part of it. And I know back when the New 52 started, he was one of the people who kind of said, no, I think we should stick with continuity because that's a big deal to him.
Right. And that's why I'm hopeful with this.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of questions here from Stefano, and this will be a good way to kind of drive the rest of the conversation about this. So give whatever answer.
Drive this hashtag rebirth train.
Yeah, let's give some answers here. Do you think there will be a lead-in event to DC's Rebirth like Flashpoint/Secret Wars, considering that DC will still have the continuity-based minis that'll be mid-run during the summer relaunch window? Titans Hunt is 10 issues. That's not scheduled to be over by the time this is done. There's a couple others. I want to say
Batman and Robin Eternal's not going to be done.
I think it wraps up right prior to it. Okay. Yeah, there's at least Titans Hunt, I know, shouldn't be done by the time this starts.
Well, Green Lantern Corps should be done.
Green Lantern Corps will be done the month before. Yeah, but if this happens in June, that gets solicited in April's previews, which means we find out about it in March. We already have February's previews, so. There's no
lead-in. I mean,
there would be a 1-month lead-in that we don't know about if it all happens in June.
And honestly, I mean, I don't think DC needs the lead-in. I mean, I think that depending on, I mean, if they're doing a rebirth across the board, that's something that just started out fresh. Just go with, like you said, giving people these characters that have the classic feel for the fans that have been reading a long time, but also a modern twist to kind of pull people in and keep people interested, especially people who potentially could get sent towards a comic book store because they stepped into a movie theater and watched Dawn of Justice or Suicide Squad or
well, that's always been the issue, that I saw the Avengers movie, what comic should I read? Well, it's not really a great comic. Some of them do. Guardians,
the Abnett Atlantic Guardians, for Suicide Squad, I can easily say Adam Glass is
Suicide Squad's easy enough. But Batman v Superman, most people have read Dark Knight. Winter Soldier was easy. Civil War is easy. But a lot of, like, Spider-Man is not really
What Iron
one.
Man should I read?
Yeah, it's tough. Charlie, you think there's going to be a lead-in mini? Or an at the same time mini?
So right now, my actual assumption is that however Justice League ends is probably going to lead into this.
Darkseid War?
Yeah, because, I mean, they've already sort of set up the flux of the universe. Mm-hmm. They've already sort of dealt with these big sort of earth-shattering implications based on what's happening. So
Darkseid War is the event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's very possible.
Well, and also, I mean, we didn't even get any cover art for the Free Comic Book Day.
No, the Free Comic Day is just Suicide Squad reprint.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Similar, he says, do you think they're going to relaunch altogether, or might we see a staggering of number ones a la Marvel's all new, all different relaunch?
I think DC will stick with... I prefer them to stick with...
All at once.
All ones, 1 week, all new ones another week.
It's tough because it's a lot of books.
It's tough because it's a lot of books.
If they make it returnable.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they make them returnable, I think for retailers, yes. I mean, doing what they did with the New 52, like, you loved that setup for
the new
ordering.
52,
I mean,
the new 52 number ones were perfect. Yeah. I could use returnability on a couple extra titles because they did it for the real one. There was a couple that I thought maybe could have still used them, but comparatively to most books, I ordered a ton, sold way more than I expected, returned a healthy amount, but still, I sold way more than I would have ordered. So,
but the thing is I think sticking with the, they've been fairly okay about it. They've had some delays and stuff like that, but they do try and catch up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, especially going into, if Batman's going bi-weekly, it's kind of good if you release Batman kind of the last week of the month, or third to last week of the month, and then that way...
We'll get to some of that in a second.
Well, part of what I'm hoping for in terms of the way they launched this is, as you already talked about, there's certain series like Titan's Hunt that can kind of carry past this.
Yeah.
If they hopefully keep enough of those around that they can stagger it a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of as those ones fall off, bring in
the new ones come in. Titans Hunt, in theory, could be the launch for the Titans book because it is...
would be perfectly fine with
because that's kind of the deal with it. Yeah. It's
just, I guess for me, I think a little bit of staggering would be good. I don't think they need to drop 40 issue ones in a month.
It's tough.
Or 52.
Well, how many titles do you think we'll see? And how many titles do you think DC could support? 52 titles? Less? More?
I think as it stands right now, Batman's on like the teetering point with what it can support.
Well, overall, but there's going to be more Batman titles. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
But that's part of the thing with going like bi-weekly on some titles and stuff. It means they can support less individual titles.
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends.
But Batman without Snyder and Capullo, double shipping.
We don't even know who's writing it, do we?
We don't know who's doing anything.
Yeah, so that's
actually part of something I don't fully understand, because if Snyder can help produce and oversee Batman Eternal and Batman and Robin Eternal, I see no reason why they couldn't treat Batman the same way with sort of a bi-weekly, is still have him oversee the...
Well, I'm sure he'll still oversee it in some degree. I know Scott Snyder right now is heading up a class. Basically, it seems like a recruitment drive for DC. He's doing like a comic class. And a lot of that probably is to try to find some new talent. That might be a bigger role he plays going forward, and his comic book output is less. Mm-hmm. He may end up being a little more on editorial, or maybe the DC Entertainment end than necessarily the comic end.
Because the thing with Snyder is
a similar position as Jeff Johns.
What I've really liked about Snyder, I mean, because he broke onto the. I mean, he's only been in the comic book industry for 6 years?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a newbie compared to some of these other people.
Absolutely.
But what I've always loved about him, especially, was he's bluntly honest with what he can put out.
Oh yeah.
You know, he's like American Vampire. When I get to it, it will come out.
Sure.
he still works on it. It's not like he's ignoring it, but he's very honest about what he's working on and so on and so forth. So I've liked the clarity and the communication that he has with people about those things.
Yeah.
Well, I love the fact that he's kind of put not his foot down, but he's specifically voiced his opinions and or objections over certain price hikes and stuff like that too. I think...
Oh, we'll get to the price hike in a second.
I think he does a good job of sort of listening to the market and
he's
giving that a voice.
He's very involved on Twitter with fans and stuff like that, and it's and I think it shows in kind of how he gives back. Because I mean, right now he's just working on Batman, American Vampire, and like the editorial for Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
But he's not doing.
Well, he's like plots Batman and Robin.
Yeah, no, that's his.
Yeah.
But he's not writing it. The only book he's writing is Batman and American Vampire.
Like I said, I think he's got a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Will we see more ongoings? To answer this question, I think Charlie's on the money. I think we're going to see slightly less than the 52 because stuff will double ship. Justice League is one of those rumored double shipping titles, which means goodbye, Jeff Johns. I don't know about that, but we'll see. Will we see only ongoings, or will DC be more honest about regulating C and D grade character by announcing anthologies or miniseries about those characters? Now, I've said this for a while now. I absolutely think Legends of Tomorrow, the new anthology they have coming out that I'm sure will only last 4 issues or whatever, ongoing, ignore the sales of it forever, 3 to 4 stories per issue, rotating creative teams, various characters. It's all just a pitch. It's a tryout. It's to see what sticks. Put it all in one book. Don't care about sales. I think they should do that. They won't, but that's what I think they should do.
Well, that type of book, especially in this market, Marvel Comics had their Marvel Comics Presents.
Well, they've kind of been doing that a little bit, at least with the digital side of things, like a lot of the shorter Wonder Woman and Batman and
but most of the digital stuff is based on the most of it is based on the TV show.
Yeah, they're the
stuff.
TV show stuff. And
I'm talking about the Legends of Dark Knight book that they started collecting, the digital issues,
But you don't need to have you don't need to try out Batman or Wonder Woman.
Well, no, but it's an interesting thing to give various writers in the industry a chance to kind of say, well, what would their stories be like on these characters?
But you also, the reason a lot of these comics come out is not only to see what sticks, but also to re-up trademark and copyright and all that stuff. So if you have an anthology book, you could take all these other characters.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that I believe we will see sort of anthologies like that more and more going forward, but I'm guessing what it will be is
digital
cheap
first.
Digital stuff that will then get collected in.
Yeah. Jesus, Stefano sent me a ton of questions here.
You said 4 pages?
Yeah, it really is 4 pages. Where do you think DC
How big is the font?
Normal.
Oh, shit.
Where do you think DC will draw the line in terms of pricing? Is Rebirth the event that will finally kill the $2.99 book and usher in the $3.99 price tag at DC? If so, do we see marquee titles like Justice League and Batman explore the $4.99 price tag as well, with additional content or digital add-ons? If they go to $3.99, which I think is a very likely scenario across the board, DC, put in the digital code. It is such an additive for so many readers, and
this would be a great time to do it because you're doing it with the number ones.
It would be a great time to do it, and it really justifies the purchase of a $3.99 comic. I can speak for myself as a retailer for a number of customers who are like, well, it's too expensive, but you get both, and I like to read it on the plane or on the train or at my house when I'm not accessing my comics. I got kids. I like the digital code. I have a few customers that buy the digital codes from us, but they buy the comics, take the codes, and give me back the comic books. Mm-hmm. Because they're like, oh, I'd rather support you than necessarily support Comixology, but I still want the digital copy. And so I get a bigger cut. I know I got a couple of people to do that. So DC, if you go to $3.99, put that digital code in there. It is, I think, a very good thing. And
yes.
Charlie
yes,
will love
please.
that. Yeah, Charlie will love that.
Charlie actually buy more books.
Yeah, Charlie's buying anything right now, hardly, except for trades. Let's see. And he asks, what do I think this would do at the retailer level, but the $3.99 price point? I don't think it would really change much. I think, like Marvel, you see quality will sell. People will get pissed off at the crappy titles. The price point is helped by the digital add-on. So I think that's
yeah. I mean, going up to $3.99 with the digital add-on, I think losing $2.99 is fine. If they don't do the digital add-on, I think keeping experimental titles or lower tier titles at $2.99 is kind of what they need to do.
They should, I'd like it, but I don't think they're going to. I think this is going to be the bullet that shoots everything to $3.99, almost guaranteed. I would if I was DC, I would, because quality, it doesn't matter. The $3.99 price point is not affecting Marvel sales. But
quality
is affecting the sales on all new, all different, not the titles.
Yeah, but when you get to like titles like Batman and Robin Eternal, if they do a weekly series again, I mean $3.99 a pop at a weekly series.
I could see them keeping Eternal at $2.99, but
or like a weekly series at $2.99.
Maybe, yeah. But even then,
even in that anthology book, I would say keep it that like $2.99 price point.
Well, the anthology book is very cheap. It's 8 issues. It's $8 for four full length comics. So that's $2. That's $2 a comic. That's a good deal.
It's a little mini trade.
You may not like the comics, but yeah. How do you think DC will structure the retailer aspect of Rebirth? Will we see incentive discounts for ordering? Yes. Incentive variants? Absolutely. Open to order variants? 100%, because DC's been really successful with that. Store variants? That's where stores get their own personal variants. They've been experimenting with it more. This could be the thing that finally pushes it over the edge.
Now, are you going to do a store
variant? They'll do it for a couple.
Because I know you've been hesitant to do that.
Marvel's store variants.
Give us numbers.
You're paying more than your traditional discount. So if your traditional discount is 55%, you're only getting like a 40% or less discount. So you're paying more for the comic. So a $4 comic, you're paying, you're not paying $2.20 an issue. You're paying like close to $3 an issue, plus the art, plus additional freight to get it. It's expensive because it's 3,000 copies. I believe DC's minimum for the Turtles, or no, it was Dark Knight was $6 book at 5,000 copies.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, they bring them into 1,000 copies. I can hang. I can't do it at those high ends.
Those numbers just don't make sense to me. Just looking
they
at
work.
Yeah, but it works for Midtown. It works for
there's a lot of stores that do it.
Oh,
but I mean, the reality of it is, yes, they work for Midtown. You have stuff like Loot Crate nowadays. It
worked for 100 stores for Star Wars. They dug deep. They found it.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, there's going to be stuff like Star Wars where it would probably be completely worth doing, but that's a lot of money to sink in for a single, okay.
It's not feasible for most stores.
Yeah.
The only way I could see it working, I'm not saying Ryan should rush out and do this, but like if he was to partner with every store in the area here, because there's a massive amount of stores, to do like a Bay Area exclusive.
Sure. If we were the only store within 100 square miles, sure, I could see that. I could see that working, and I think those are the stores that tend to have a better deal with that because they kind of have a history of this and a bigger customer base. Harder in areas like this. Let's see. He continues. Orderable swag like the Batman capes, lantern rings, etc. Maybe, but DC's kind of been holding off on that recently, so I would guess no.
Yeah, because our coloring pencils haven't even come in yet.
No,
I'm just too busy still waiting for my Infinity Gems that never came with Marvel.
Happened. Yeah, that never happened.
Marvel made me sad.
Yeah, with Infinity.
I think some of it's good, but it depends on what it is. I definitely think the Suicide Squad movie posters to give away for free would be good.
That's just selfish.
Sorry, I had to plug it.
In the weird way, I consider that stuff awesome, but like there's this fine line between like the paper masks that they did for various characters. Those were fine. Those were cheap, that kind of thing. But most of the really low-hanging fruit, like they've already done like free rings for most of the known rings. I mean, not to say that if they weren't something new and stuff available, that could be kind of cool. But it kind of feels like they've already covered most of the low-hanging fruit for that.
He says, in general, generous FOC and return policies for early issues. I think that would be the make help up, because they kind of, that would be them kind of admitting, we fucked up a bit. We'll give you returnability on select series for the early issues. He says, what do you think these should do about structuring the retail policies they put in place to allow for Rebirth to successfully launch at the retailer level? And then basically everything you asked, I agree with the majority of it, and I think they'll do, and that will help its success. At the end of the day, though, it's going to come down to the customers. Will customers respond to it? I can pitch it as much as I want, but is the guy that came and bought all the new 52 number ones and was completely gone 6 months out, is he going to come back a second time? Probably not. That's a very tough pitch second time around.
DC's been good about at least giving us information going into these things. Like 52, we got, we could sell it, we could pitch it. We had the freebie that they gave out saying, this is the creative teams. Here's kind of a little thing. Like, they've been... the retailers, they've made it easy for you to talk about things, like Convergence and Forever Evil. And, like, you were able to relate to customers what, this thing coming up was. I think learning from the Secret Wars fiasco of what the hell is Secret Wars, right? And we don't even really know.
It's a pizza where you take toppings from the hamburger and you put it on the pizza. So let's get into some continuity bits here.
Bones, pickles, lettuce, cheese. Put that patty in between its burger. What is burger?
Stefano asks, we know from talk that Rebirth is not simply a relaunch, but it's neither a clean slate. Which that's I
am holding back saying the word I want to say before you jump across this table.
So how much do you think Rebirth will affect continuity? We're going to see a streamlining. Filling of character continuity, a la books like Green Lantern and Flash Rebirth. And what he says is exactly right. I think they can acknowledge the New 52 happened, but I think we will see a return of a lot of classic elements, bring the character up to what is a good place in classic continuity, but tweak enough to make it interesting going forward with something new for every character, whether it's... doing the Green Lantern, the multicolored Lantern cores, and the idea of the Sinestro core and all that going forward, whether it's the idea of the Parallax entity, whether it's the idea of giving Barry Allen a new backstory and a more dramatic origin.
I think what it is
those are the elements that I think we'll see.
A part of it is the Batman and Green Lantern books didn't really change from the old to the New 52. Those were kind of like the ones that were, these ones we have been going well. We're going to kind of keep the same feeling going through. I think what they did with like Animal Man and Swamp Thing out the gate, that's what we kind of need for these characters. Like Swamp Thing to me felt very classic, but at the same time they were starting to introduce, the red, the rot, the gray, and like all of these interesting things.
They Green Lanterned Swamp Thing, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, no,
I want more of that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my perspective on this is, in terms of continuity and all that, I think they have the perfect indicator of what they should keep and what they should drop for the most part, just based on trades.
Yeah.
If you're going to keep Rebirth and all those trades in print, they should stay as continuity. If you're going to keep Death of Superman in print, you keep that as continuity. If you can pretty much throw out all the stuff that you're not going to keep in print because it doesn't sell. Well,
and that's sort of what Marvel and up to the New 52, I felt DC had been doing, especially Marvel, a little bit of DC, but they have, you've heard me talk about this idea of the sort of light continuity where the origin matters, last issue matters, everything in the middle, you kind of fill in where needed.
If it's a good story, it sticks. If it's not, it's kind of forgotten.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to change the past, but acknowledge it if it's done well and done right. There's no reason to get rid of the George Perez New Teen Titans or the classic Paul Levitt's Legion superhero stuff that is seen as good comics that formed these characters.
Yeah.
Why would you ditch that? Don't get rid of Death of Superman because it was such a successful story. You can acknowledge it. Just work, just it happened. So move on. It may not have been a great story, but it was a successful story.
Well,
you can ditch
Reign of Superman and all that stuff.
No, but because that's very successful. Can you ditch Cat Grant's kid getting killed shortly after by the fucking Toyman? Yeah, you could ignore that if you want because no one cares about that.
And I guess to my point, especially in you saying about sort of propping up good stories from the past that sort of stand the test of time. How many things came back into print because of Jeff Johns around Green Lantern Rebirth and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to talk about basically propping up the old continuity and getting that interest high again?
Well, why?
You do it right, and you will not only sell issues, you will sell trades.
Well, why are they reprinting classic Deathstroke stories when Deathstroke's not like Deathstroke? Why are they reprinting all the Nightwing from the 90s and Batgirl from the 2000s if those characters are gone?
They got
right?
sick and tired of getting Toby's emails.
But I mean, either way, it's just one of those things where they talked about this to a degree during the start of the New 52 about trying to really go with the, okay, when people think Batgirl, they think Barbara Gordon. We're going to try and sort of prop up what people recognize. And that worked pretty well to a degree.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why you then take that same logic and you look at what they launched with the Teen Titans and it's like, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's move on to a few questions here. Fuck, I'm like barely on page 2.
He's seriously using the regular font?
Maybe it's like 5 pages. Yeah, it's a lot of fucking questions. There's great questions across. This is going to be a 2-parter.
You know what? You need to ask him for permission to see if you can post it, and then just copy it all onto the website for the store, and then just post it.
Let's see. Will we see a mix where creators or ongoings follow closer to editorial edicts, but then have minis on the side like Superman, American Alien, and Dark Knight 3, where creators are given free roam? Yeah, and I think that's pretty common. I think we'll always see that. I don't think that's too much in question. So here's a question. If not, do you think DC is capable of streamlining their editorial process let me rephrase this. Streamlining their editorial process so as to prevent the bogging or flip-flopping of plans that cause the New 52 to burn out both their stories and creative teams. Now, this is, to me, one of the most important questions because all the planning in the world doesn't matter if 6 months in, Dan Didio's saying, oh, nope, we're going to shift everything back around again. That is the biggest concern that I have.
Well, it's commit, right? It's commit to those that longer contract you gave that creative team. Commit to
an Image can't steal these guys away 6 months in.
No,
of all their new talent that Scott Snyder is going to bring them.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is give these, because that's the thing is with the security of knowing they have that job, the creators are going to be working more towards that without that lingering in the back of their mind.
But you need editorial to be like, look, we're approving this story, and then hands off.
Yeah.
If Batgirl wants to get married, let him get married, as long as it's not going to screw up some weird plans you have. Putting in weird rules like comic characters can't get married is stupid. Let the creators do whatever they want to do, as long as it fits the greater continuity. Now, you need...
And once you've greenlit something, don't start backpedaling.
Right, because if half these creators are gone after 6 issues...
Because, honestly, that was one of the biggest disappointments for me for Batwoman, was that I knew where the story was going, where it was progressing, and it was really, really good. And then that huge thing with editorial saying, oh, no, we can't have him marry, and blah, 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 blah. And then and it was like this... It was like an awkward breakup. Right. And you're like, why the hell is this? This feels like Lana on Smallville. Like, it's just bad. And the thing is it affects not only that title, but it affects other titles because now people are going, well, is that happening on this book? Is that happening with this team? Yeah. And Gail Simone was having issues on Batgirl around the same time. Yep. There was it's like the only people that were immune to any of this editorial garbage was Scott Snyder and Jeff Johns.
Right. Will DC begin reintroducing a house style for Rebirth for art? like with the New 52 reboot, or where we see creative freedom given so as to allow for styles similar to the Batgirling, quote-unquote, effect we saw last fall. I'm actually of two minds of this, because as I've been reading more of these Marvel ones, and it's actually abundantly clear we're not going to talk about these Marvel number ones this week, so next week.
We're not going to... Yeah, then we'll add a couple more number ones on there.
I find it funny that as these more and more of these number ones are coming up from Marvel, I find they're all so different than traditional Marvel number ones. But at the end of the day, a lot of them feel kind of the same. They're all a lot of that kind of anime manga influenced art. A lot of them have that style. They're all very snarky. They're all very comedic. Not all of them. A lot of them. And it's Marvel's Batgirling of their own titles has now become the house style. And while that may be good for some new readers and some traditional readers, I feel that is a turnoff to a lot of the both regular and potential audience for comics. I don't need everything to be super ass dark, but I feel like the mix has gone too far the opposite way.
Well, I think to me it's things like I look at books and it seems like it's just too simple, right? Like the art style is just something that can be done really quickly. I don't get any real feeling from the characters. Like
they've cheaped out. There's a lot less inking. There's a lot of digital coloring straight from pencil. A lot of the Marvel art, again, not all, maybe not a lot, maybe not half, but a number of titles feel underproduced.
But the thing is you take a title like, just since I read it, but we can use Green Arrow too, was it Aja?
David Aja?
David Aja, the artist on Green Arrow and the new Old Man Logan coming out?
No, Sorrentino?
Sorrentino, yeah, that's it. So Sorrentino has an amazing art style. Like his shadowing is awesome, his line work is amazing, and the coloring on those books is not necessarily a lot. But the blend of his art style and stuff works.
Oh, there's certain artists that absolutely works for. There's a lot that it doesn't.
There's a lot it doesn't. But that's the thing is when you take that kind of art style and you're applying it across the board to things that it shouldn't be applied to.
Right.
Like that art style should not be applied to, a book like that Herberto Ramos is doing. Right.
I don't think. I mean, and they don't, but it shouldn't. Yeah.
But I guess my take on this is actually pretty simple. I think it's worth keeping a house style on the art on certain books, and then I think there's plenty of books where you can get well outside any kind of house style. Like Gotham by Midnight is a perfect example of a book that the art style just completely and totally fits. The Dr. Fate book, again, just... I feel
Marvel and DC have gone a little too far, though.
Yeah. But I kind of feel like where I kind of have an issue is I kind of feel like art should never be jarring if I'm picking up a Justice League issue.
All right.
I agree. There's sort of like this fine line between some issues you should just keep standard and stay as close to that standard as possible.
Well, I mean, I go back to Swamp Thing. I mean, the art in that transition in the middle, I mean, it was, except for kind of a couple issues during Rot World, the art style stayed fairly consistent.
Yeah,
and
through the majority.
It made the book very enjoyable, a very great read.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, you kind of felt like you had this good, solid book that was written by a couple writers and drawn by a couple of guys, but it was similar, so it felt, correct.
Yeah.
Whereas you get titles like... and titles like Justice League, where we had the fill-in artists for a little while after Jim Lee, or in between Jim Lee's things.
Yeah.
Where it was, it didn't hit the mark, but it wasn't.
Well, they've had pretty solid artists on Justice League.
I think there was just one arc in between that was kind of. It didn't hit the mark, but it wasn't so horribly off that it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't look at this.
I'm fine with them occasionally having fill-in creators, so. We got our good friend Bryce joining us here. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to talk too much Marvel this week, but that's fine. I know he's got all sorts of stuff to say about DC Comics. Bryce finally made it. Sorry the train was so delayed.
Trains.
So Bryce, with DC Comics launching all new number ones in June. That's the rumor.
Yeah,
Let's ask
all new, all different DC universe. How many jokes have you guys already made before I got here?
a couple, mostly on Marvel's expense.
I
but,
actually haven't used the R word yet.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Bryce.
Which is the okay.
Let's see. I think I actually had a good Bryce question here. It's kind of down the end here.
Troll last question.
No.
No, Stefano doesn't do the trolling. Ryan does the trolling.
Yeah, these are all from our good
He
friends.
said that he had a question. He didn't say
No, these are all from our good friend Stefano. He sent me 5 pages of questions about Rebirth, so that's basically been the whole
what
episode.
we've been going down.
All right. Bring it
He
on,
did all the
Stefano.
legwork for Ryan this
Stefano,
episode.
here's the answer. Before I know what you guys talked about and before Ryan even asked his question, Higgins and Brock have just been the worst over the past couple of years about trolling DC.
No.
Trolling Marvel. Oh, God. Oh, it's another reboot. Oh, it's another record. Oh, it's another. Oh, God. Marvel.
Well,
oh, God.
if you go
Marvel.
back and listen-
This is so annoying. DC would never do this.
If you go back and listen to the first hour of this podcast, you will hear us say, depending on how it's done and depending on why it's done, it could be good, it could be totally pointless. Marvel, I'm okay with Marvel doing the all new, all different stuff. I felt the earlier relaunches were a little pointless, but something like all new, all different to me made sense. The quality on some titles and the sales have not been as strong, but I think it's all right. If this is about Batman selling 18 more variant covers for a number 1, there's no point to it. If it's about an honest Rebirth is, Green Lantern and Flash Rebirth, Jeff Johns taking classic elements of the characters and putting them to a modern day, right? The relaunch is called Rebirth. If it's about taking...
So is that actually what it's called?
Yes.
Because I know that that's what it was nicknamed.
No, that's...
That is the only information we have about it is them calling it Rebirth.
Yeah. Yeah, literally the only thing we know is hashtag Rebirth. That's literally the only thing we've seen.
So I saw the hashtags, but has DC... Okay.
No. So we're doing.
So they haven't come out and said officially that it's called Rebirth. It's just that we've seen the hashtags from all their
right.
Twitters.
So we're recording an hour and a half podcast purely on speculation based off hashtag Rebirth being the only piece of information we know. But it's a DC, so we're going to do it. So
Well, that and just like everything else,
Is it the
there's
worst?
all sorts of news surrounding those hashtags that have come out from Bleeding Cool and
yeah, a lot of rumors.
everything else. That,
Here is
I read a lot of the rumors.
Here is a question for you, Bryce.
I'm ready. Give me.
Would this get you back into DC? Stefano asks, do you predict any dark horse signings, no pun intended, to highlight Rebirth? Like, let's say, a reintroduction of Brian K. Vaughan or Greg Rucka to the DC universe, a Fiona Staples Batgirl / Wonder Woman title, or how about Matt Fraction's Green Arrow? If those or other, poaching from other companies and bring, maybe Jonathan Hickman, maybe Rick Remender to DC for a title or two, would that influence your buying of DC?
Well, let me just think. No. No. Trolling aside. No, but only because I'm on second child budget until Kelly goes back to work
For 18
frankly.
more years.
No, just until Kelly goes back to work.
So
so
years?
insert the Patreon plug here so Bryce has a little more money to spend on comics.
No. So I'm
that's
not
a yes. We
necessarily
want you to
sold
have more
on-
comics.
I'm not necessarily sold on Image, but I picked up a bunch of Image books with Hickman and Remender and Rucka and Vaughn on all of those. Like, it makes no sense that I wouldn't pick up those writers' books if they were doing DC characters that I'm familiar with. And for all of my bluster, I actually like DC characters. I just try to counterbalance Ryan's craziness. So if Rucka did a Batman Superman I would probably love it. It's just, I'm more married to I personally am more married to Marvel, and with my certain budget, I'm sticking with Marvel for the time being. But
Of course.
So your question, would that get me to switch? No. Would I like it if I were to ever read it? Probably. Is Marvel better than DC? Yes.
All right. Let's see. Knowing that Snyder is jumping ship to Detective Comics, which did get announced.
I just find the term jumping ship weird.
Well,
I don't really think
Yeah.
it's jumping ship because technically that was a ship he came from.
yeah,
Right,
he's going back home.
Who said jumping ship?
This is Stefano's questions. Yeah. I mean, Batman's the big dog, right?
Can you cover up this
Detective. is now a... Do you have that thing that you don't like bumps and like... Do you know what this is?
This is terrible radio. I'm looking at the cover of Super Zero #2 where this chick has, I don't know if they're zits or if they're chicken pox or what. Or
do you
some
get freaked out?
thing.
Like if I show you like a beehive, do you get really freaked out by beehives?
No, maybe.
I know people like that.
Yeah, maybe. I'd rather just not
Do you
look
not
at
like
it.
like rashes or like centipedes or millipedes?
I don't like any of those things,
Okay.
but I wouldn't say it's a thing. It might be a thing.
It's a
but...
thing. I can't remember what it's called, but I know people that have this.
All right, answer your question. This is terrible radio.
Assuming Batman will wither in sales without
What?
Snyder,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm going to stop you right there. Wither is a little aggressive.
Batman is the #1 ongoing superhero comic for 5 years straight.
Are you agreeing or disagreeing with me? I'm just saying
it will drop in sales significantly without Snyder and Capullo. Capullo's already off.
Dude,
I totally feel like we should have a contest where people can predict how much the drop will be.
Right.
It depends who takes over.
You know way better than I do. So if you say so, then I won't disagree. But Wither, I think, is a little strong. I think that Snyder or not, Batman is fucking Batman.
Batman under
the title Batman will do just fine.
Batman under Grant Morrison was selling like 45,000 copies.
And what is it under Snyder?
100,000. Yeah. It was.
Well,
like,
Grant Morrison's fucking weird, Brian. So
Yeah.
that's all I got.
I mean, certain arcs of his stuff was was higher, but but Morrison's Batman was lower.
I can think of one that has a character.
and
Charlie likes.
before it was way lower.
Before Morrison, it was lower than 45.
Oh, way lower. Yeah. Batman was never like a. But the
Holy
top,
crap.
but the top selling comic at that time was also like 90,000 copies. So comics have.
Where did it go?
changed.
Green Lantern. Where did it go? Johns until now, like sales Green Lantern until sales post Johns. If that.
Early John's stuff was maybe 50, 60,000 units. Height of John's was 80, 90,000, and it was the #1 book often during like Blackest Night and other stuff for like ongoing titles, not miniseries. Now it's at like 25,000 copies or something. Yeah, it dropped pretty bad.
Would you say that
Still, it's higher than it was pre-Johns.
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, Green Lantern was like never a good seller. Do you foresee any? He continues. Do you foresee any consolidation of character-specific titles? Will we still see an action comic / Superman split, where one title handles the event while one tells more B-side stories, which always goes back and forth. That always has been the case. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it is, and then sometimes they're just all the event, and then sometimes Detective's going to kind of go this way, and then 6 months later it's just a regular Batman book again. So. I can't expect us to change that, but yeah, you'll see some of that at least when it starts. Long term,
they're going to have 12 to 15 Batman family, Batman related titles.
Absolutely.
They're going to have 2 or 3 Green Lanterns. They're going to have 2 Supergirls. They're going to have 5 Supermans. They are going to have
like 8 Harley Quinn titles. She's already getting another miniseries.
They're gonna have 3 Harley Quinn titles. They're gonna have what else? What am I missing?
And at least 2 Suicide Squad titles. Probably a Deadshot title.
Yeah. So they're gonna have a Green Arrow. They're gonna have at least 1 Flash.
Supergirl, Flash.
Yeah, they're gonna have at least 2 Suicide Squads.
Arrow.
What else?
2
do
to
they have?
3 Justice League teams.
1 Cyborg.
They've got to have their own Cyborg title because
Yeah.
they got that movie coming
They'll
out.
keep Cyborg,
I think in like 2 years that movie's coming out.
Cyborg, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. We're gonna lose a lot of the B and C list guys.
You mean the good stuff?
What's happening to Johns' return to Aquaman then?
Who knows? Gone again.
Yeah. Was he supposed to return to Aquaman?
Yeah, it was like delayed for years, and then he announced something a few months ago, and maybe he's taking over Aquaman again.
No.
Could be.
Colossus came in this morning and he said, Torcevich, you don't have to go to Aquaman.
Did you see that?
Yeah, it was really cool.
Jim Lee Jeff Johns a Colossus sketch for his birthday.
Happy
birthday, Jeff Johns! Yesterday, Monday.
Is Jeff Johns Russian?
No.
Or does he just love Colossus?
That's his favorite Marvel character.
Weird that okay. I'm not complaining. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I saw the headline. It said Jim Lee returns to X-Men. And I was like,
What?
No way. No. Oh, yeah, no way. Okay. Never mind.
So, Stefano asks, who do you think is going to have the lead at launching of these books? Are we going to see a sort of renaissance at DC where they go poaching talent from Image, Boom, IDW, and perhaps even Marvel?
No.
Like
What?
Marvel poached
No.
creators from DC, like
Yeah,
Dick Van Leer and Charles
they're
Soule.
not going to. No.
Or will DC rely on house writers like Scott Lobdell and Keith Giffen and Dan Jurgens?
Yes.
Or the publisher to fill out titles when they rely on Snyder and Jeff Johns to keep things afloat? Or
Yes.
a combination?
The latter.
I think you will see a influx of some big name creators coming back just to get
Why do
that.
you think that? Why do you think that?
Because anytime they do a big launch like this, they want to have some buzz around, like not just like, hey, we're relaunching the titles, but we have some new returning talent.
And remember, in Convergence, they reached out to a lot of old talent to come back to do small stuff. For them.
And
No, but
it
that was
worked.
like for nostalgia's sake, though. This is just relaunching the universe. Like that was like, hey, let's get that. That was like the Age of Apocalypse getting Nesesia. That was like who got Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and all that. Like they had a
Dan
bunch
Jurgens,
of specific writers for specific titles because it pulled on the heartstrings of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
This is just like a straight up reboot of the universe.
But-
why would they come back for that?
But they also got some creators who were super mad at DC to come back and do some titles. I mean,
Greg Rucka.
that good or bad, that mends some fences.
Yeah, if Scott Lobdell... I
Do you
actually
think that
like...
it mended fences, or do you think that they were like commissioned for like an arc, and then they were like, okay, yeah, thanks for the
I think
money.
it's
Peace
a
out.
lot easier to see if there's still hard feelings when you go to somebody and be like, would you like to do a couple issues?
Yeah.
And then once those go well, it's a little easier to go back to them. How about you come back and do a 6-issue arc of this
Now,
to help
I-
us launch this?
Now, I actually like
okay.
Keith Giffen and Dan Jurgens, but their books don't tend to sell great. So, I hate to have old creators go away just because they're old, but sometimes that's just going to happen. They could maybe do like little side projects for them because they've been writers
as
with them
long
for
as
so
as
long.
long as they're good side projects, not Neil Adams level.
Well, right. So my other problem is, I don't want Scott Lobdell to launch like 6 titles for this. That
any
could-
toppings?
kills the whole purpose for this. Now, Scott Snyder is running that school we talked about, and he's going to be probably getting new talent and grabbing some guys from Image and Boom. So I think part of that is around, but you need the strong support of Snyder, of Johns, of Gail Simone. You need the people. Brian Buccicello. How do you pronounce his last name?
That's right.
Yeah.
You need what's the hell's the guy's name?
Chris Claremont.
What Claremont?
Well, I guess my mentality is there's certain writers and stuff who have sort of stepped away to work on some of their own stuff over the past couple of years who finished up their runs like Azzarello on
Yep.
Wonder Woman.
Azzarello, too. Yeah,
I would
yeah.
not be surprised if they get Azzarello to come back and
Well, he's doing Dark Knight 3.
yeah. But that's sort of my point is I'm not saying the
traditional stuff.
entire relaunch is going to be, we're going to have a new creative team on every title that we poach from somewhere. But I'd be willing to put down money that there will be a couple of titles that are going to be the return of either this particular team or this particular writer
Well, and it seems like you were talking about Snyder doing
or artist.
kind of those classes and stuff like that, where trying to bring in new talent and stuff. And I think that seems to be more of like a mentor program, like bringing them in and positively molding them. It seems like they're working more towards that, because that's the thing is you take kind of the TV style and you have a couple newer writers or like with one good or two good writers writing something like Batman and Robin Eternal. These guys get in, they're solid, they get going, they get a good feel for it, and then you let them go on, say some C or D list character for a run and see how they do with it.
So what I would love to see happen, I mean, you've seen this happen time and time again with a lot of creative teams. You start with remember a lot of the early John stuff, he was a co-writer on. And then slowly they transitioned him to lead writer on it and that kind of thing. I would love to see some of these new talents sort of be paired as a co-writer with some more experienced talent on some of the books and do that sort of transition where
I want to see Tom Taylor doing more. I want to see Peter Tomasi being more involved. I think those are the guys that.
Well, King the one that
Oh,
did?
Tom King. Oh, my God. Give Tom King, like, every book at DC.
Like, he's
yeah.
the one that-
Clean up your table.
Yeah.
What just happened?
He's the one that did The Legend of Wonder Woman, right? That one?
Tom King's
Which one?
Vision and Omega Man. Yeah. DC, sign him fucking ASAP. Get them shit out. I mean, I love Vision, but get him out of Marvel. Sign him at DC real fast. Because you're going to lose him to Marvel in a heartbeat.
They can give Vision to Hickman.
And get Soul back so we can write a good book. Jesus.
Dude, you're so weird. You're so weird with your
His
Jeff
Marvel
Lemire
stuff.
and Charles Soule are like our gods at DC, and they come to Marvel and it's all crap. Oh, but come to DC and you'll be good again. Like
No.
What?
He's gushed over Vision and how much he loves Vision. He just would
He hasn't
rather.
gushed. He's commented. He hasn't gushed. Don't give him
he
gush.
is gushed.
There's no gush.
Vision is probably
There's no gushing.
Vision is like my. You missed that episode. Then Vision's like my favorite book at Marvel. Vision is
Yeah.
incredible.
No. You gave Book of the Year to Squirrel Girl and the terrible art that
Oh,
it includes.
that was one issue had been out. That's
Don't you dare put this away.
so. Let's get to some general
Good comic
questions
flip
here.
there, Charlie.
As we're going to wrap up our episode here.
Wait, did you say good comic book? Were you talking about Extraordinary X-Men?
How does everyone feel about Rebirth? Too soon, or in Bryce's case, too late?
Wait, why is that a zing? That's the stupidest O ever.
Because I wanted to just do it there.
Yep, well, that's...
Don't be angry because the train was late.
Is this too soon? Is the New 52 not that old? Or is it they should have fucking maybe done this 18 months in and just went, oops, let's do this,
okay,
redo this.
Here's my thing. I don't think it's either. I think it's both and neither. I think that it's kind of like a fucking non-event. I think that both comic companies should be doing this. You've been fucking, and this guy especially, Brock, I'm pointing at, have been like, ribbon Marvel for doing this over and over the past couple of years when it, sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't make sense. But the idea behind it all is they're not rebooting the universe, even though Brock would love to tell you they are. And
Well, Secret Wars, New 52, those are reboots. Major reboots.
what are you talking about? This is it is business as usual with all the Marvel number ones. You and Brock are so annoying. You're talking about like how it's a white event. Brock wouldn't shut the fuck up about how it's a white event.
Yes, I
nothing,
remember.
Nothing is actually.
Did you see Starbrand number 2?
Nothing has actually changed with any of these stories. They
Yes,
all
yes,
start
Miles-
with like, 8 months later. Oh, that was a weird 8 months later.
Who doesn't remember the classic Miles Morales in the Marvel Universe and the Maker and like
Yeah. Adding characters from other
Old Man
universes
Logan.
really makes it a white event.
and Old Man Logan and
Old Man Logan starts with a white event.
Dude, you know why Marvel's Secret Wars was so much more successful than any of your fucking DC trash was? Because, like, it created an event that wasn't a reboot of the universe that allowed them.
Did you read Secret Wars number 9?
That allowed them.
They literally are reforming every universe hand by hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Out
they're
of
not
a kid's
restarting anything.
imagination.
It's continuing all the universes.
Well,
No.
And they're allowing them to, and they're allowing them to cherry pick. They want Old Man Logan in this. They want Singularity from A-Force 1, which we can get to if we have time, which I have time for if you do. They're allowing them to take, who else? There's some other examples, but they're allowing them to take like the good things from other, like Maker. Unfortunately, he's in that trash New Warriors or New Avengers book, but like he's a great villain. So pluck Old Man Logan out of this thing. Get whoever I can't even think of whoever else. But the point is like get the best people from these other universes. Sure, you need Miles Morales for reasons that I won't say because they're inflammatory right here. But you get Miles Morales into the Marvel universe, like. The Marvel Universe, the 616 is just like kept on going. Like there's no white event. There's no reboot.
Did you read Secret Wars number 9?
Dude, you're like saying reboot, and you're like defending DC and how it's not a reboot.
Did you read Secret Wars number 9?
Yeah, I thought it was. By the way, we haven't talked about it. I thought that Secret Wars number 9 was awesome.
Yeah, it was a really, really good comic.
Yeah,
Yes.
but they're not. Nothing's rebooted.
Where Franklin Richards.
Heroes Reborn, the multiverse.
Yeah. Franklin Richards recreates.
No, it's not. No,
Yes,
it's not.
yes,
no,
it is.
no.
The Marvel
Oh, geez.
Universe. The Marvel Universe is now Universe 1. Franklin Richards creates the Marvel
I did
Universe.
see that. Okay, I did see that.
And
But it's the same as the Marvel 616.
it is.
Just because they named something different, it's the same thing. Every book is saying, just like 8 months ago, that crazy thing happened. By the way, how funny was Rocket Raccoon and Groot #1? Or
That was great.
Like
So
that war, that thing that was like a war that was kind of secret.
So
that's how he starts the book. That's
did
awesome.
did the direction of
and
post
pockets the mouse.
did the
That's a good
direction
book.
of post New 52 DC demand a dramatic move like Rebirth? If not, what do you think DC should have done is to refresh their line while revitalizing interest for their books? You're looking at the wrong shelf, Bryce. Sit down.
I'll find it later.
You want to talk about some DC comics now?
Anyway, look, I think that, it shouldn't be as big of an event. I think that both comic companies should do this. I think that the fact that it's like a thing is more of the joke. I think that, you guys probably spent this whole fucking podcast talking about will they or won't they with DC Rebirth. It's like, it should... How did you find that so quickly?
Oh, I
It was
am
more
like...
that they should.
Well, it depends. Again, like I said, if this is solely about market share, if this is solely about throwing a bunch of fucking variant covers, no, they absolutely shouldn't. But if there is an honest, like, we are going to apologize for the mistakes we made for the New 52, we're going to make this as good as we can, then that's fine, because they burned a lot of fucking bridges with the New 52. They made a lot of mistakes.
I think that they just want a fresh start. They want a clean slate. They probably have somebody in the upper office saying, look at this Marvel data. If we just put #1 in front of our title instead of number 17, or and that's why Marvel is better. No, okay, hold on. You pause the recording. Hold on.
He has no idea where
anyway.
he paused it. So
Yeah, I don't know when you paused it. So what I'm saying is that there's got to be some market share data as to, like, look, Marvel does this all the fucking time. Like, they have #1s, they have variants. The people that make the decisions have ultimate authority, and they're saying we need to make more money to, like, prove to Warner Brothers why we're valuable.
Exactly.
We need to, like, do X, Y, and Z. If we do #1s, we'll get 20% more in 2016.
But
What do you mean?
But we are now
I like
seen.
big
We
butts
have
from
now
Ryan
seen.
Higgins.
We have now seen one relaunch from DC and 3 relaunches from Marvel. And if you look at the long-term
Wait,
data,
you mean 2 from DC?
well, New 52. We haven't seen this yet. We've seen 3 relaunches from Marvel.
I mean,
if you look at the long-term data, the #1s sell very well, and there's a drop, like there are always going to be, because the #1s are front-loaded with the variant covers and everything like that.
Yep.
However, it is now clear, 3 relaunches in, go look at Comic Speak, go look at Comic-Con. They have data going back to show how this works for all of them.
Why don't you just tell me? Because I'm going to believe you.
The second #1 does not launch as high as the first #1. The third #1 generally does not launch as high as the second #1. By the time you hit issues 2 or 3, sometimes 4,
Wait a minute.
they are lower than where the previous series ended.
Wait, so I have a hard time believing that with this newest relaunch of Marvel titles, that these #1s were lower than the second relaunch from Marvel.
They are. And the numbers on the 2s and 3s and 4 are crashing real bad.
How? Oh my
The
God.
article on Comics Beat. Now, Comics Beat is usually known for being very anti-DC. The title for Marvel's November numbers is racking up the failure counter. That's the article name for their November sales charts for Marvel. It is really scary. This is not me. This is
crazy. That sounds like an internal memo to all DC employees.
This is not a comment on quality, because Marvel and DC both have some fantastic titles right now. Marvel has a lot of very good titles right now.
Wait a minute.
But
So your argument,
the sales
and their kind of argument, even though they're not making an argument, is that if they didn't relaunch with #1s, that their number 13 would sell better?
The sales are bad across the board. The relaunching is fake, because you get 1 month of better sales. They immediately go back to where they were before. There's no long-term...
Right, but you're also saying that they end lower... Sorry, that they start lower than they ended the previous iteration.
A lot of them have.
No.
That's what he's saying. What do you mean, no?
What he's saying is, so if the previous series ended at number 13 or whatnot before the issue 1,
Yeah.
the issue 1 sells better than the issue 13, but the issue 3 sells worse than the issue 13.
But is it on like a sloping scale that it would have been on anyway?
Right, and
So
that's
if
what
it
I'm saying.
is, then whatever. They get all those bonuses from variants, and DC's an idiot not to do the same thing.
No, but
But
it drops the scale faster.
They need to correct that downward trend, because we've switched all the creative teams around at Marvel, and the numbers are lower.
Yeah, but this seems like
almost
masturbation. It
across the
seems like
board.
we're talking about like whether or not they do this. It's on a downward trend. Is that correct? It seems that that's what you're saying.
Yeah, there's very
So there's a
few
downward
books-
trend no matter what we decide here.
Well, there's always a downward trend in comics. Comics always drop month to month. They just
what are we talking
there
about?
are like 2 books that don't, like Saga and Walking Dead are like the only 2 books that don't drop month to month. I'm serious.
They do this.
They just kind of stay and they slowly go up. So it's the idea of that they have to find a way for some sort of stability, because if you change the creative teams but you go right back to where you were, like what Marvel did with the Secret Wars stuff, there is no reason to relaunch because you're getting the bump from number 1. But the belief is at this point, because we're 3 relaunches in for Marvel, people are abandoning the books faster because of the relaunches. Early on, first time, second time, people thought people were getting into them because of the relaunches. We now have numerical proof from sales charts that are showing people are abandoning these titles because of the relaunches.
Right. So the fallacy there is that they're not accounting for the fact that fucking half of the relaunched books from Marvel with this new post-Secret Wars thing were new titles. Like, you can't tell me that Patsy Walker Hellcat is selling worse because it's a brand new title.
No, of
Devil
course.
Dinosaur Moon Girl is a new like half of Vision, half the titles are new titles. This spun out of the
But
what can we do? Like Old Man Logan, is that going to be a new title?
Yeah, but
it should be a new
but half
title.
aren't.
And by the way, it's like one of the half of the books that Marvel's coming out with. It's a new title.
Well, but half aren't. That's
Not to mention you
No,
can
but they got
still
to keep iterating. Like you can't half aren't, and they're going to keep going down, and then they like cull the bad, and then they keep the good. That's what they have to do. And so relaunching is a better thing for them to do because A, it makes them numbers because it sells variants with number 1s, and B, it gets rid of the crap stuff and it keeps the good stuff or the stuff that's selling. Like, why wouldn't they keep doing this over and over? Why wouldn't they, Charlie?
So there is a general consensus of sort of the doom and gloom if they cannot correct the downward trend and they keep basically the next number 1 is going to sell worse than the previous number 1. What they need to do is the reason why Walking Dead and Saga continue to sell, why Batman kind of leveled off, like, yes, Batman may trend down, but it trends down very slowly because it has a good amount of buzz. It has a good, strong, stable creative team. When you constantly do this relaunch, I would love to see where like the Iron Man numbers are not compared to Iron Man, but compared to other Bendis books.
How is
Iron
anything
Man's
that you're
pretty
saying? Ryan brought you in to
But-
retort what I was saying.
But the reality is,
retorting what I'm saying?
if the number of books stays the same and you add up the total number of sales and it's lower, it's a failed relaunch.
Okay, except that it's not if you include variant covers, which makes them more money, which is what they're after.
But it's
Yes, but you can't launch issue 1s every month.
But they
if
do relaunch them every year.
But if all you're selling is issue 1s and the market is dying on by issue 3,
Okay,
you can't.
what I don't understand
it's a
is
poisoning of the market. Every number 1 is lower than the previous
sure,
number 1.
You said
That's
yourself
the problem.
that last year was the best comics year you've ever had.
It was.
So what the fuck are you even talking about?
Because it's Star Wars.
Well, Star Wars helped, but here's the problem.
Dude, so when they relaunch Star Wars, you're going to be fucking shitting on that?
It won't do as well as the first ones. Here's the problem.
Which is why they keep iterating and bringing on new names.
Here's the problem.
Tell me the problem, for fuck's sake.
You have, first of all, an increase in price. You have an increase in units. There are more titles being published, not selling, more titles being published now than ever. The variant covers, the gimmicks, they work. Sometimes they don't. Eventually, that's going to go away.
What do you mean eventually that's going to go away?
The gimmick of the variant cover is not consistent sales.
It hasn't gone away yet. You're saying it's going to go away. It's like my dad saying that Trump will never win the Republican nomination.
Some do well.
Well, we'll see. Okay.
Some do well. Some do less than well. DC's are a little up and down. Marvel's, they've hit the hip hop stuff, but they can't keep coming out with new number 1s, and they can't, because Star Brand and Night Mask is not going to sell what Amazing Spider-Man sells, and when they will kind of run this course, and they'll hit on one more strong variant cover theme, but
What do you mean maybe they'll hit on one more strong variant cover? Like, That is
It's
so
not-
short-sighted. You think that maybe
Quality storytelling for consistent sales is what the industry needs,
Yes.
not
Yes.
gimmicks and number one relaunches.
Nope, I agree with that.
Yes.
100% I agree
Yes.
with that.
And so they need to solve the problem of how can we have consistent sales, and they need to focus less on the gimmicks because the gimmicks is what the gimmicks are not real. They
Yes.
are not consistent. They are not predictable because some variants will not sell. They may think
Yep.
they've got a killer idea and it flops.
Yes. Yeah. Just like DC's Rebirth is totally unnecessary, except that, oh, by the way, it's going to make them a shit ton of more money.
It's unnecessary if there's no long-term plan. If
Exactly.
it's to throw a bunch of fucking variant covers on the wall, it's unnecessary.
Exactly. Not necessary, but it will make you a shit ton of money and
For
you
1
will
month.
pay your mortgage for 12 months until next year.
No.
Well-
New 52, the belief for New 52 was there was a long-term plan. We found out shortly after there wasn't. That's the mistake. With the Marvel number ones and potentially with Rebirth, if there's no long-term plan, we see those numbers go off so fast. Any bump you get from the number one is eroded by the third or fourth issue. So year long, you have less sales. They bump it up by having more titles, higher prices. So
More
you get
variants, they have special events,
Of
they
course.
have fucking all these other new number ones that come out mid-cycle.
But this cycle is burning out readers. We've had good years. The growths are getting smaller. We're still positive. I'm still very happy the way the industry is number wise. But there is there is an instability in how long this will maintain. And people are, we're losing people.
You probably also think that like the Marvel movies are gonna start tanking soon, and that cycle is gonna end. I think that I've heard you say that too.
I am worried because of the lack of Marvel Comics people involved in the movies. I don't believe they're going to tank anytime soon, but I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so.
So my overall sort of sense on this is we've talked about it recently that DC sales are kind of dying on a lot of the books and everything. Like
a lot
yes,
of
you can-
stores have DC as their number 3 publisher behind Image right now.
And like, yes, you can hold up, but Batman does great and Justice League does great, but that's 2 titles out of an entire line of books. Rebirth is the latest attempt to course correct that, which they need to do. They need to do something to course correct at this point.
For DC, they've given the New 52 kind of enough time to establish itself as something that wasn't a miniseries, that wasn't a year-long thing.
But nothing stabilized. Except for Batman and Justice League.
Yeah, except for but the thing is like these titles have had enough of a window that, well, they gave it a shot. Now let's try again. Hopefully, learning from what we had before, which is let's have this long-term goal. Let's have more of a stable footing going forward,
And hopefully they do.
and that's something that we hope they have.
Yeah.
But again, it's back to the numbers. Is like you have a book that's like it's the dropping that's the problem. Is what Ryan's talking about. Is that a book will sell 100,000 copies for a new number one, and by the end of that run, be it whatever issue, it's now down to 40,000 copies, right?
Maybe for fucking their most popular book,
Yeah.
down to 40,000.
No, the 40,000 is a good seller.
Fucking great seller.
I'm just using these higher numbers. So then you go to, we're going to relaunch the book, so now it relaunches at 80,000, not 100,000, and it drops down to 30,000 at the end of the run.
You were literally reiterating everything you
well,
said.
hold on.
I get it.
It's not by the end of the run; it's by issue 3.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. I get it.
Just checking because it didn't seem like you. No.
Did it not seem that? Because
Yeah, you were still getting
Thanks
angry
for
about it.
reiterating. Exactly.
So let's move on to. I have 2 last questions here
From Stefano?
from Stefano before we
Can
wrap
you
up this episode.
hurry up so that we can get to any Marvel number ones?
Episode's over, man. What are you talking about?
We
We're
could
done.
run through them real quick. Just go.
Is the idea of DC's Rebirth already having a material effect on your enjoyment or continued reading of the titles that are currently out?
Yeah, because they're going to end. Why do I care about them anymore? Next question.
So the last issue of Batman gave me the first holy shit moment in a while, and I'm really excited for the next one. So the answer is no.
I think I have a feeling that the creators know what's coming, so they're kind of
wrapping up stories and
wrapping up stories, but also like, well, just kind of do whatever you want because I'm very curious to see what's going to happen to Green Lantern with Parallax coming back. Justice League Darkseid War has been fucking incredible. I don't know how these books are all going to end. I don't know if they're all going to end at the same time, but
Okay. All I know is I need to get fucking caught up with these fucking books before June because I don't want to be in your fucking station after with New 52.
Two full relaunches of two full sets of relaunches to read up on.
Do you still have stuff to read from prior 52?
I have stuff from like the 90s I haven't read. Are you kidding me? The books that are on the fence, I'm dropping immediately because they're inconsequential. I'm on the fence, so now I really don't care. Books that have been good, I'm now very excited for because it doesn't matter. They're going to do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
So, Bryce, let me answer this last question, and then I'm going to pause. I'm going to answer the question, and I'm going to ask myself because it's for me. And then I will pause shortly so I can make a call to find out where my comic books are, and then we will return and talk about some Marvel number ones. We'll have a nice extra long episode just for you. Okay?
I love it.
As long as
You scared the shit out of him with that.
Well, I was ready to finish, but as long as I can make this call and find out if I know where my comic books are.
I'll finish you off, Ryan.
Lastly,
holy shit balls, you just said that on air.
How are you thinking of tackling the lead up to Rebirth, knowing that the remaining 4 or so months are going to be either wrapping up, like we were talking about, or filler arcs, tied books over till the relaunch? Give your comic market report for the first half of 2016. I think a lot of the DC books have kind of bottomed out. I think if you're not reading them right now, you're not going to jump in for them right now. I can't picture them plummeting any further than they already have. Some books might drop more because, again, like I said, if I'm on the fence, I'm definitely dropping it now. But if you're on the fence 7-8 issues in, what's another 3 or 4 issues?
Yeah.
So,
the best thing to do in that situation is just get the rest of them, read them, and then hawk them on eBay.
Most people probably already dropped them, right? There's not, if you're reading line wide, you're going to finish them. If you didn't pick up past 2, you're not going to get them now. Yeah. So
wait, okay, was this tied to a specific press release? I know that there was a rumor.
Bleeding
Cool just
drop this like a fucking wet beat,
and then Didio and Jeff Johns had to drop something on Twitter.
Okay, so what I don't fucking understand,
we know nothing,
is how they're not like tying this to some like grabbing their balls and shouting from the rooftops moment. Like, Darkseid War is going to end the DC universe as we know it, and we're going to have a rebirth.
We're going to hear this in 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
So you think that's what it is? Is Darkseid War going to go that long? I can't imagine.
Darkseid War is already scheduled right now. Like, it's not even the last issue. The special's like April, and that's not even the end of it.
Hasn't it already been going for 2 months?
It's been going for 7 months.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they're on part.
It's been going for 7 months.
So they have broken it up into acts.
I haven't heard you.
So you get like 4 issues or 3 issues, and then like you get to the end, it's like end of Act 1.
Right. And then they had all the
end
specials.
End of Act 2.
They had all the specials. Yeah, did you not hear me talk about how Justice League's like the best book being published right now?
You won't shut the fuck up about it.
Darkseid War has been so good.
Super annoying.
Yeah, it's been the best.
It's like a 12-month long story, and you're complaining about Secret Wars being delayed and being so long, even though Secret Wars ended amazingly. I haven't heard you say anything awesome about.
Well, we can talk about it if you want with our Marvel number ones here after this little break. And we are back.
And that's why Marvel is better.
Well, if Marvel was so good, they'd contact FedEx and find out where our fucking comics are. But there's good news. There may be good news. The boys at Kettleman City are on the job. They've left the one In-N-Out burger that's there that everyone goes to. And now they're on the job looking for our comics in the great city of Kettleman City, California. Now, if you go to Disneyland from Northern California and you take the 5, Kettleman City is your stop for lunch. That In-N-Out burger every time. It's great
Unless
stuff.
you have more fortitude, in which case you just power through without lunch.
Nah, fuck that. You gotta have that stop there, man.
Bring your lunch in the car. Eat
Got
in
an
the
infant
car.
like a bladder. I got an infant like a bladder. Also got a bladder like an infant. So there you go.
I have an infant like a bladder.
Yeah, you do. All right, so we are here for what is going to be a very long episode, but we are also going to talk about Secret Wars number 9 because Bryce, we wanted to wait for you here to talk about this, so we could talk more about Secret Wars number 9 and less about Starbrand and Night Mask number 1. How
Dude,
about that?
how bad was Starbrand? Can we talk about Starbrand and Night Mask number 1? How bad was Starbrand and Night Mask number 1?
You know,
I guarantee
because Charlie's here, I'm gonna.
Oh, did you like it?
Well, it's Greg Weisman.
Yeah, I actually did.
How about this?
Fucking-
It was better than I expected.
Yes, I agree with that so
It's
far.
still a pointless comic book.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not a pointless comic book, but I enjoyed it.
It was better than
You
I
are
expected.
a bigger brand loyalist than I am, which is saying something. Like, you are even worse than I am.
I read issue 2.
I prefer the term creator loyalist.
Dude, like, what's his name? Your boy, Jim Zub, could write a book called, like, Nazi Baby Killers that also kill kittens, and you would be like, oh, well, it was pretty good. It was good.
Stop pitching ideas, bro.
So in the race to the bottom, Starbrand and Night Mask, and then Red Wolf are the two leaders right now.
How Red Wolf has already beat him there. This wasn't that bad. I mean, like, Red Wolf was way worse than this.
No, I mean sales wise for us in store. Those
The
are
race to the bottom.
those are the two in the lead. So we'll see what. what
those
bottoms out
are
first.
those two are the two
The
bottom.
lowest. Yeah.
Oh, dude, there's many other ones that I would have thought would have been in contention for that, like Squirrel Girl. Just kidding.
Well, let's
Just
talk
kidding.
about Secret Wars number 9.
Dude, Secret
No, you
Wars
don't
number
want
9
to
was-
talk about the Squirrel Girl cameo in Starbrand the Night Mask?
Yeah.
Oh god, I bet Higgins loved that.
It was the best part of the comic.
Oh god, you are. The best part of the comic was Gravitron and Nitro.
Well, hold on. I actually want to go back to Starbrand and Night Mask number 1 here.
Jesus, can we not talk
Well,
about
no, because I realized something.
Because like those two dudes showing up, like that was very cool.
Who are my favorite comic book characters?
Nova and Speedball.
New Warriors. DC wise, a lot of the Legion superheroes, New Teen Titans. What do all those characters have in common?
Dude, we've already been over this. You love those like cheeky teens with
Exactly.
their like.
But it was when I was a teenager. Now that I'm an old man, I hate all these new teenage characters.
You know that
Like-
teenage goth Ryan would be like, these guys are so cool, and old Ryan would be like, fuck you, kid, and you'd be like, you're so lame. I need more eyeshadow.
That's exactly what I'm wondering. If I was 13 now when I read these, would Starbrand and Night Mask be my favorite comic?
Dude, I think so. It was not that bad.
It wasn't that bad, but like it really was. I was a teenager and those characters
Yeah,
were
it's
teenagers,
just
and it worked so well for me. But now when I'm adult, I'm like, get out of here, Moon Girl and Starbrand. And why is every
Girl's
character
not bad.
Why is every character a goddamn like cool teenager?
Oh, dude,
like,
don't even get me
hipster
started
teenager?
on fucking Patsy Walker.
Half the Marvel universe.
She's down in the stack.
We were talking about this before you came here. That half the Marvel comics now are like these like wannabe anime like snarky teenage characters, and
Yeah.
it's kind of
Oh,
annoying.
it's so annoying, dude. Having almost as much brand loyalty as Charlie. I love Marvel, but fuck if not every like in the Hickman's Avengers, Starbrand and Night Mask were like these stoic badasses, like the white boy, whichever one that is. Starbrand. Okay. Obviously not Night Mask. That's a little telling. But like there were these. I guess he was a little like fish out of water, but they were like saving literally like galaxies, and they were like punking the builders, and they were saving worlds and millions of beings. And now they're like, oh, well, I guess going to community college is a good idea for a next step. And
It's not. No, they're not even going to community college. It's just college.
and it's not even like Night Mask is just going to go and like help the Avengers do something. He's like, no, I should probably go with you to community college. That seems like something that needs to happen instead of me going and
Starbrand has to find his humanity again.
saving the
He
world.
signed him up. He dragged him to college.
No, Nightmask Starbrand, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why? Like, I understand Starbrand because he's like still that age technically, but Nightmask, like, no, you didn't have to go, Nightmask. You could have gone and like helped the Justice League or some shit in the Watchtower. Anyway, like
Secret Wars number 9. Let's talk about Secret Wars number 9.
Really fucking great ending. Not as good as like I still want. Can I talk about Marvel for a second?
Hold on.
Where is hope? Where is fucking hope?
Settle down. Let me tell you a little bit about Secret Wars. Okay?
I hear that from my wife. So many.
Issue number 0. You remember me and Brock made a bunch of snarky comments about
so
how
annoying you two about issue 0
or issue 1. How it should have been issue 0. Right? Okay.
Oh, well, you were wrong there too. Okay, keep going.
So 2 through 5, I remember being like, okay, yeah, I'm getting into this story. This is pretty cool. And which is the one where they kill Doctor Strange? Is that 4 or 5?
I think it was 5.
I mean, that was like in 2014. I don't even remember.
So after that, when the big delays started kicking in, I legitimately felt the next few issues were totally pointless. That issue 6, 7, and 8 could not have happened, and nothing would have mattered. All the build-up in the Secret Wars titles of now we're going to go fight Doom, it never happens in Secret Wars. They don't fight Doom. Like, there's like Ben Grimm kind of fights him for half a second, but like this big fight with all the characters in Secret Wars, it doesn't amount to anything. Nothing comes of any of this.
What are you talking about? So they did a great job of building.
Charlie just
sat up in his seat. I'm gonna fucking fight you. No, that's not true.
Nothing. None of it mattered.
Dude, you're wrong. It was all build up. Those first 5 issues were build up, and then when he kills Doctor Strange, it's like, okay, now shit is getting real. And then he spends the next 2 or 3 issues like building up, like alliances are being formed, and like the pieces are moving around the chessboard. Whereas at the beginning, he was world building. He was
talking
like,
about derp ass Mr. Sinister. Like, no, like that shit was totally pointless.
Look, first of all, he was only derp ass because they only give Asad Rivik 1 month per comic, which he needs more time. Okay. Second of all, boy, did he look derp ass. Third of all, they were fucking like world building the first 4 or 5 issues, and they were moving the pieces around the chessboard the next 3 issues, and then like the last 2 issues were like the fucking conclusion, and they fucking crushed it, dude. This was the best event that they've had since. I'm like still conflicted about AVX because I think AVX I just want to like so much, so I'm inclined to say that it was better. But I actually think that this event was better. Although, what is that? Hindsight is 2020. Like I'll be able to have a better perspective on it later. But
I think there was. I will fully admit issue 9 of Secret Wars is really, really good. It's a continuation and pretty much the end of the entire Hickman Fantastic Four run. I just think it had
it brought that to a great close.
Yeah.
Why there's no Fantastic Four books anymore? Awesome.
It makes sense.
Human Torch is still in Inhumans. Ben Grimm is still doing whatever the fuck with the Guardians that I could give less of a fuck about. But yeah.
No,
I mean, like, there's no Sue, there's no Reed, and it makes sense why. Why did Cyclops die? I still want to fucking know.
I don't know.
And where the fuck is Hope?
Who knows? / cares.
Well, the thing is like with Secret Wars...
Franklin never met her, so she doesn't exist.
Yeah.
God damn it, Franklin.
I think the difficulty I think with the Secret Wars books is it kind of what you're talking about, where it kind of feels like 6, 7, and 8 are kind of don't feel like anything. If you take the Thor's book had this really kind of nice setup, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, now we're gonna go fight Doom. It's like it was
so most of the books went into establishing, okay, all these people are gonna go challenge Doom, which is really a big distraction for what's really going to happen at the end. And that's why a lot of it feels like it doesn't matter.
Which
because
really made Future Imperfect awkward.
Big aspect of that was just all of a... So the point here is there's going to be a big battle that's just going to distract Doom long enough for the real plan to happen.
Future Imperfect was the worst example, though, because as a Marvel apologist, I have the worst time defending Future Imperfect. Spoiler alert for Future Imperfect. I liked
the comic, but it completely contradicted Secret Wars.
Exactly. I fucking loved the comic. The art was great. I love Greg Land, which we'll get into Uncanny X-Men, hopefully, if we have time, number 1. But I fucking love Greg Land. Peter David, I really like. But it ends with him like stuck in a cave with Rick fucking
Rick
brain
Jones.
fart.
Yeah.
Rick Jones, thank you. And the idea is that like they just left Maestro in a cave for all of eternity. And there he is, like 7 months later in Secret Wars number 7
Yeah.
or 8, like, yeah, I'm here to fight you, Doom.
So
The Maestro, that is, which is like, wait, what the fuck? Like,
Let's-
back in April, I read about how you were like stuck in a cave,
You're
like
just dreaming about how
dreaming about how you were punking on Doom. So
let's talk. So I have one question. Maybe you can answer, Bryce. Cause
I can answer it all, baby.
because maybe you looked more into this than I did.
Without a doubt.
But then let's talk real quickly about how they leave the Fantastic Four at the end of this, in the end of Secret Wars. So the question I have is,
What is your question?
I like Black Panther and Namor fighting Doom with the gauntlet.
That was.
But
okay, that was awesome.
But I don't get. I understand that Black Panther takes the time gem and goes back in time. But I
Yes, love that, and that wasn't even like highlighted. That wasn't even like.
But it.
Pointed out too much. That was just a little panel, wasn't it?
Well, no, it was like an entire page. He's like, "Oh fuck," and he grabs the gem and just and he goes back in time. But he goes back in time to tell some Wakandans to form Alpha Flight and to put them in space. I don't understand that. I mean, I understand it's because it's building.
it's to set up the Ultimates and to set up Captain Marvel.
Right. I mean, I get that, but within the context of the story, do you know why? Why does he do that?
Wait. Hold on. I'm on the page. This is all a distraction. And he goes back in time.
Yeah, it felt very weird. I'm like, oh shit, Doom's going back in.
I mean, it's been probably like a month since I read this.
Like Black Panther is going back in time to stop Doom. Nope. He's just starting a space program. What? Like, I was really confused.
The other odd thing about it is he goes back in time before Franklin Richards rewrites.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like,
I don't know when.
so
Yeah,
how does that make any sense? Because if he goes back in time,
I thought it was a little confusing.
Have you read the other books from the all new Marvel one where that big like satellite basically sword? Do you remember Sword? SWORD, whatever,
Yeah.
the shield,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, because
They're calling that the Alpha Flight Station. Are
Right.
you familiar with that?
Yeah, 'cause
It was
Abigail
in
Brand
A-Force
is-
number 1.
Abigail Brand is now
Rose was, like,
part
number
of.
2.
Abigail Brand is now part of that because she left Sword, right? Or it's part of Sword.
Yes, so that's owned by the Wakandans, right?
Right.
So why that's in this one, why that's in Secret Wars number 9,
I don't know.
I don't know,
Yeah,
but like
okay.
it
Okay.
does sort of segue into like what is happening in multiple number 1s.
Yeah, it just seemed very
A-Force,
weird.
fucking whatever that
Captain
other one
Marvel,
was, Captain
Ultimates.
Marvel, thank you.
Ultimates.
Ultimates also.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, Ultimates where he says like the Triskelion is 1/3 Alpha Flight, 1/3 Ultimates, 1/3 fucking
Yeah, it was just
Wakandans.
it was weird. Anyway, so
Okay. Yes,
we basically get the last
bizarre, but not game breaking. Was fine.
We get the last big fight between Doom, Reed,
Yes.
using the Molecule Man
Yep.
in order to stop Doom. Really, at the end of the day,
Yes.
and why there is no Fantastic Four comic going forward, and even though we who knows to what degree people remember the Reed and Sue, they use the Molecule Man. Do they use the Gauntlet?
Nope.
The Gauntlet's not part of it. It's just Molecule Man.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
The Molecule Man and Franklin Richards, who, if you remember Heroes Reborn, he's a vastly powerful character that doesn't really use his powers often, to single-handedly, for all of eternity, recreate every multiverse in the Marvel Universe
One at a time.
One at a time.
Yeah.
Well, that's my vision of this wasn't recreate, but create a new multiverse.
Right.
Yeah.
They're trying. He's
Yeah.
trying to like put the pieces back together as well as
Yeah.
he can.
well, I just figured out that the most powerful thing in the universe that drives people is just give them a burger.
Well, yeah. There's a number of characters that come over one way or another into this universe, whether they meant to be there or not. Miles Morales comes over thanks to.
I mean, there are, I think, a greatest hits. Like, there are not that many. I mean,
No.
Miles Morales, Old Man Logan. Who else?
the Maker.
The Maker, yes. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Although he's fucking relegated to New Avengers.
What's her name from A-Force, the
Yeah.
Stargirl?
I think that
But
wasn't she like...
She comes over like herself. Like, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
They don't make it seem like Franklin made her. She survived.
Right.
Or
I'll give you a half on
Molecule Man.
that. So 3.5. I mean,
Yeah.
who else?
No, that's really it. So
They just look like the 3.5 most popular characters from the other universes, and we're like, you guys sold the best. Come on over to the 616 or Marvel 1 or whatever the fuck they're going to call it.
So they go from making the Fantastic Four, we're going to regulate the Fantastic Four to be the least important characters ever and not use them and cancel them and kill them, to they are the gods of the Marvel Universe and literally the most important characters, period.
Right,
Now-
in the
now-
Future Foundation.
It's like Booster Gold.
Now, Bryce,
The
I
greatest
will...
hero you'll never know of.
Yeah, exactly. Bryce, I will send you a link to a great article on Reddit where someone...
Great article on Reddit. You already have my
It's a bit contradictory. I understand.
Yes.
No, I trust me. I'm with you. But this guy basically breaks down all of the characters in Hickman's books and how it's actually Disney and Marvel editorial, and how the heroes and everyone relate to the writers and the creators and the readers. It's a very interesting way of...
That sounds incredible. So what I have
I'll send
to
that to you.
suggest, everybody that's read this book, go to the halfway point of Secret Wars number 9 and
The Star Wars 16 ad, number 16 ad.
open up the Staples and look at that gorgeous Star Wars 16 ad. Just kidding. Look at the right page, which was my favorite part of the comic, which is when they're fighting to the death in front of the Molecule Man for this, Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Doom are battling for literally the multiverse and the history of Marvel Comics, and fucking Mr. Fantastic says, like, look, Doctor Doom, we know that I would do a fucking way better job than you asshole. And Doctor Doom is just so well written, these characters by Hickman. Doom is like, yeah, I do agree that you'd be better, but I'm fucking God right now, so fuck you. But it doesn't matter because he agreed that Mr. Fantastic would be better. Molecule Man hanging upside down without a hamburger is like, all right, well, if you both agree. And Dr. Doom says, whoa, what? But it's too late because kablooey.
There's a lot of white on that page.
Oh, God, you're so annoying. More wheezing. Black Panther takes out the time gem, goes back in time. Oh, God, this fucking book was great.
It was really good.
I haven't read a book.
Hickman's best work has been Fantastic Four, and like suddenly in the last issue, it's like, wait, it's a Fantastic Four comic. Oh, excellent, and it gets really good again. So yeah, no, I really liked it.
The Black Panther thing wasn't bad. Like, that made perfect sense for what they ended up doing.
Yeah, it just seemed a little out of place.
It's like yes, it does, but it's sort of like they probably went over this in a Marvel summit where they were like, look, we're going to have an A-Force, or I'm sorry, an Alpha Flight, satellite.
Did he jump back or forward?
Well, he's out of time, so he jumps back prior in this new created universe.
Yeah, I think that it doesn't really matter. I think that he jumps to the now, but outside of this universe. Whatever do you want to believe if it's forwards or later? But it says
as he's jumping, where he's landing changes.
Right, and because after he's there, it says 8 months later, and that's when the Marvel Universe is going on. And then Miles Morales and Peter Parker are hanging, or is it Doc Ock? You never know.
And
there is some bad Assad Ribic art in this.
I don't remember. Does the Future Foundation, do they go back or do they stay with?
They're there.
They stay with them, right?
They're staying.
Yeah. So all the kids and Gargoyle. Yeah, Gargoyle.
Yep, Gargoyle's there.
They all stay there too.
How funny! the whole Doctor Doom is good looking. If this had come out on time and then Iron Man number 1 had come out,
would have been bigger. But
actually, wait, would it have been?
Well, it's the same reveal,
right?
So I guess now we know why. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Weird World, number 1.
Oh, Weird World's
by
so
Sam
good.
Humphries and Mike Del Mundo. This was okay. I actually liked it better than a lot, but I've noticed that a lot of Marvel books, if they're not snarky teenagers, they follow another trend where it's a character that gets a minority female sidekick, a minority female human sidekick in the first issue,
Or a minority female.
I've noticed that a few times in a few of the different Marvel books. I know this in, well, I guess not. Doctor Strange, she's not, but I don't know. I feel like I've seen this pitch a few times. It was a cool issue. Kind of, it's weird. It kind of comes out of nowhere. Not sure what's going on with it, but
did you read issue two?
I like it. Not yet.
Feels like it should come out of nowhere, though.
It felt like an issue number 2, right? Or it felt like we missed the prologue to the book.
But I think the whole pitch of Weird World kind of seems to be the idea of you missed the prologue. You just kind of dropped into the unknown.
I agree with
and
that.
crazy.
Sure.
Great art, Mike DeMundo.
Mike DeMundo does a fucking great job,
yeah,
and I love the one picture of fucking not Conan, obviously. Archon. Baby. No, that's Akon.
That was bad.
What is it, Archon?
Archon, yeah.
Like saying, like, get out of here, kid.
Yeah. Which I actually liked the original Weird World miniseries, the one from Secret Wars. It took an issue.
Yeah,
I was
that
kind
was
of a
my
little
thing. Is like it seems like this world is incredibly deadly, and only because he's like this badass warrior is he able to survive.
Yeah.
She's just some lost teenager that like was on a plane flight, but she's doing just fine.
But Brianna Tarth is there to help her.
Yeah, Brianna fucking Pop-Tarts is there to help her.
Yeah.
Too many Pop-Tarts.
Too many Pop-Tarts. But okay, so on the Bryce scale of rent, buy, skip, I give that a in between a rent and a buy. I actually did like it a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. I wouldn't say buy.
So
but
Starbrand and Nighthawk is
Starbrand and Night Mask is a in between a skip and a rent.
How about
like it's got Nitro and Gravitron. Like that probably got real in issue 2, but I won't know because it didn't grab me enough in issue 1. So
I read issue 2. There's talk of white events and
only by you talking about white events all the fucking time.
It's in twice in the book, Charlie.
With you, everything's a fucking white event.
I preferred the issue 1 on Starbrand and Night Mask, like compared to issue 1 and 2. I did kind of feel like I liked issue 1 a little bit more, but in terms of Weird World, no, I actually really, really like that setting, but it does kind of feel like one of those that if you want to wait for the trade, that works too.
Yeah, that'd probably
will
be better.
probably make a little more sense.
I think that they should have given the Archon one like another 2 issues. They could have made a fucking awesome trade out of that.
Yeah.
I think that they sort of were just like, okay, time's up, Jason Aaron. Like,
now we need to insert female here.
yeah.
So Uncanny X-Men #1 by Cullen Bunn and Greg Land.
So fucking good. You're going to do that now? You got to save the best for last. That's the last one.
Just going in order here.
Oh.
Just in case we got something we skip. So Cullen Bunn is interesting.
He's fucking awesome.
I used to be kind of 50-50 on the guy, not so much by his quality, but more because of the titles that he wrote. But he's been he's been kicked up to the big leagues recently, so he's been doing some good titles.
He's been doing some fucking great titles, starting with Uncanny X-Men #1.
Greg Land, I generally like as an artist, despite
Really?
what. Yeah,
I thought that you didn't like him because of his copying.
No, I normally like
love him
Greg
'cause of his
Land.
copying.
However, this issue has the most Greg Landiest of Greg Land faces every
Dude,
time.
I wildly disagree. Do you remember his Uncanny X-Men before this?
Monet. Every shot of Monet is like a best of Greg Land porn faces. No other character. Just Monet. They do it every fucking time in this book. And so
Let me rewatch it. But dude, the other fucking Uncanny X-Men back
the time. Oh yeah.
During Matt Fraction was fucking egregious.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of that. I didn't get that from this issue.
Every shot with Monet is that face
it was just like
again.
your hatred of America. You just don't like minority females.
No, I like Monet. She's fine. You still read Gen X. She's cool. But it really is like
I mean, Monet's. I have to reread it, I guess. But like the Monet pictures seem to be no worse than the Psylocke pictures.
But it's that face. It's that same pose. That same face.
But he gets it from models, doesn't he?
It's the same models. So
whatever, I'll take it. She looks fucking like she's a cute girl. What do you want? What do you want, Greg Land?
Well, so anyway, Greg Land aside, I like this issue of Uncanny X-Men.
Magneto's finally a badass. Sabretooth, they're like keeping him a pussy. But he's still kind of a badass. This is a great issue, dude.
It's a cool issue. I want to see where they go with it. The pitch is that Magneto, Sabretooth, Psylocke, Monet, and someone else.
Well,
Archangel. they're basically
mind comatose archangel.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm not really sure what
they're not.
Where did he come from?
Villains.
But also, Mystique, I think, is supposed to join in issue 2, right?
Yeah. They're not villains. They're not heroes, but they're like
Right. They're like X-Force.
we're some of
buddy.
That's exactly where they're going with this book.
We're the last.
Thanks, Charlie.
We're
Charlie,
some of
stop playing fucking Puzzles and Dragons to join me in that comment.
We're some of the last mutants around.
Right.
We're going to do whatever we can do to survive.
Yeah.
And
it's
they're
fucking
going
awesome.
against the Revenants. What are they called?
Dude,
I can't
but
remember
then
what they're called.
also the cameo at the end of the episode.
Oh, Dark Riders. The Dark Riders.
No. They're not going against the Dark Riders. That's like so. Spoiler alert for Uncanny X-Men #1.
Well, of course they're going to go against the Dark Riders. I mean,
well, yeah, which you
At some
only
point.
know because of the end of issue 1.
yeah.
No, but that's not what they do during issue 1. Issue 1 is spent with them fighting some truck of a bunch of mutants who are ashamed to be mutants. They want to be cryogenically frozen and woken up in a time period that
accepts
that yes, thank you, that accepts
But
mutants.
also,
Well, no, it's
where
the
they can
mist.
live.
where they can live. Yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
the
it's all about the
Terrigen
mist
too.
wiping them out.
yeah, right. So it's the exact same thing as what I'm saying. So thanks.
But the Dark Riders are taking out certain mutants.
But we don't get that until like the second to last page.
Oh, the last page. Yeah.
I've read issue 2.
Yeah. So
Anyway, the end. Spoiler alert for Uncanny X-Men #1, which you should go and buy. That is a solid buy. It's got the Dark Riders from the fucking 90s. That's awesome. I haven't read issue 2 yet, but Greg Land is awesome. Colin Bunn did a great job. Magneto's finally a badass. They're actually like keeping Sabretooth interesting by like now he's a badass, but he's like he's like a little more sympathetic because he's not a villain anymore, which makes him kind of like Wolverine when Wolverine was cool because he's like a badass but actually does some nasty shit, although he has a good conscience, which is like before Wolverine was in every title he used to do. Rest in peace.
Well, Old Man Logan's around.
Oh, and Extraordinary X-Men, dude. Have we talked about that? Extraordinary X-Men, I've only read the first 2, but fuck, has that been good?
A-Force #1 by G. Willow Wilson and Jorge Molina. So as you know, A-Force was not a book that I was particularly fond of during Secret Wars. I found this issue more interesting. What's her name? Singularity. She's the kind of, star chick. The star boy.
I thought during
Star Lad from
Secret Wars that she was
annoying.
Captain. Well, yes, but Captain Marvel with the Captain Universe entity.
Captain Universe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, but Monica Rambeau with the Captain Universe entity
Right.
taking over her. I'm not sure if I'm phrasing that right or if I'm even right at all.
Well, I don't know who she is.
But no, I think that what this issue is saying is that she's a totally different character.
Well, she's a survivor from Secret Wars. She comes over from Battleworld. She remembers the A-Force team they were a part of, and no one else does. So now she's going from character to character, trying to be like, hey, friends, let's hang out. And they have no idea who she is.
Right.
Okay, concept. I actually like this better, I think, than the Secret Wars book. I mean, if this is the formation of a team long term, we'll see what they do with it. But, okay. This would, at the end of the day, probably be a skip for me on Bryce's scale, but it was not, to me, as bad as the miniseries. The miniseries, I really
for me,
was
this
not a
is
fan of.
a rent skip. This was. I like that they spend issue 1 with her sort of regrouping all the people that were in the Secret Wars A-Force miniseries. I imagine once they're all coalesced, which they are by the end of issue 1.
Well, I think the best part was Alpha Flight's in this
Go ahead.
issue. Well, I think the best part is Alpha Flight's in this issue, and we still haven't gotten introduced that Carol is head of Alpha Flight. And
they have Alpha Flight and her Captain Marvel in a bunch of stuff before her actual book where they introduced the whole idea of it. So I think the release of that's a little weird. I don't know why they pushed her book back.
Well, I got that as I
understood
this is
it,
a little teaser or flavor. This is what you're pique your interest, and then the book comes out a couple weeks later.
Sure. Just a little strange. Charlie, did you like this A-Force?
I liked it as sort of an issue to just sort of sit down and read. It's not something that made me go, I'm really excited to see where it even goes, but it does feel like it's a quality book, just not for me.
Yeah. No, I think it's an okay title. I just long term, what's the goal here? If it's a Singularity comic, is she the focus? Is the team the focus? You're not quite sure in the first issue.
So from the first issue,
What's the goal? What's the long-term
I don't
plan
know
here?
what the long-term plan is, but they do very, very good with the character interactions, as you said, of all these characters who don't know her, and sort of it's one of those kind of fun things of like, yeah, I remember what She-Hulk was doing, and they kind of touch there, and they do a good job with just her different interactions with the different members of that team. And
Yeah.
the way they ended the book, I thought was sort of a good lead into the next issue. I have no real attachment to the book.
A-Force from Secret Wars, I mean, the characters had decent interaction, but the story just wasn't there. And I think that it carried over in here. We have this kind of decent interaction between characters, but where are you going with this story?
I think what I liked more about this is the fact that the character interaction was a little more grounded with the more traditional versions of these characters. It wasn't tied to this weird battle world setting.
All right, so Skipper Rent. Next.
Skipper Rent.
Hellcat, Patsy Walker, a.k.a. Hellcat.
Throw it away.
By Kate
Fucking-
Leth and Brittany Williams.
Skip full fucking stop, dude. Get that out of my review panel.
So,
Dude,
in
look.
a world where we have Squirrel Girl,
In a world where this podcast is run by 4 straight white males, this book is going to have a tough time.
so I like Squirrel Girl. I think Squirrel Girl is a very funny comic.
Defying all logic, you like Squirrel Girl.
I think you could get away with one Squirrel Girl. I don't think you need 2 Squirrel Girls. This is just another Squirrel Girl comic, right?
Per major comic universe.
Sure, right,
Yeah.
right. I liked it.
If this was a DC female, it'd be all right.
Well, DC has.
This-
I mean,
this
is
is-
it Batgirl
this is
or Harley
Batgirl.
Quinn?
This is
She
Batgirl,
likes-
right.
She like
This is Marvel's
fulfills-
Batgirl. So
No. Squirrel Girl is Marvel's Batgirl. Not Patsy Walker.
this is Marvel's
This
Batgirl.
would be Batgirl.
Oh God.
Now,
bad
me
for
and Charlie are the
I
resident.
feel even worse for DC.
Now, me and Charlie are what I would consider the resident anime fans of some degree. Charlie more than myself, but there's definitely a lot of the art in this is very influential by the modern, that kind of shoujo anime,
Right.
like Tumblr shoujo American
Right.
cartoony
From all
stuff.
the shit that you talk about Tumblr, you're obviously one of the bigger fans on the podcast.
Yes.
Yep.
This book is going to sell to a certain audience. And again,
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
okay with these books being there.
Yep.
But do we have too many? And I think
Nope. There are not too many. They are going to a different audience than you and I.
that's true. I think it's funny. I like
So
her
I am so
relationship.
embarrassed. I laughed out loud. There was like a joke on like page 1 or 2 where I was like, "Oh, this is like that was a clever line." I forget exactly what it was, but it was on page 1 or 2. I was like, "Oh, that's kind of clever." And then I read the whole thing where every male introduced was, either
Sure.
LGBT and or minority, and it was like, okay, so there's no like every male, there's no straight white males in your comic book. Like there doesn't have to be for me to like it, but it's like, of course, there's not a single one.
Are you calling Patsy a fag hag?
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
It was a funny comic. Do I need to read it every month? We'll see.
Look, I think that it's just
I think Squirrel
it's just
Girl-
like Devil Dinosaur Moon Girl. I think it's just like Squirrel Girl, except for you.
Yeah.
I think that it's appealing to a different audience. Like Miss Marvel,
Of
it's
course.
appealing to a different audience than me, and that's fair.
Of course.
I think it's appealing.
I would
to
love
a
to hear Charlie
different.
defend this book because Charlie's so positive about everything. Please
Okay.
defend this book. You defended Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur. No. I don't think that was a bad book, just not for me. You defend it. I don't disagree that Miss Marvel is a good book, not for me. You defend it. Please defend this fucking piece of garbage.
Okay.
That is not
So-
a piece of garbage. Actually, it's just that it's not for me, and so I hate on it. Not
This
necessarily.
book suffers from what I would call it's okay, and what it's going for is done better in other books.
I think Squirrel Girl does it better.
Okay.
Like that's like for me
In another moment of awareness, I agree with Higgins.
the stuff that this book touches on where I'm like, well, if I want to read a book like this, I'm going to pick up the better book. Like,
Yeah, but Squirrel Girl's art is so bad. How do you even open that without your eyes bleeding?
it's not even necessarily that. It's like when it got to some of the early stuff with She-Hulk, I'm like, well, this makes me want to read She-Hulk.
That's because you just have a fucking Jim Zub hard on for She-Hulk.
Oh, this
Charlie.
is a direct continuation from
yes,
from
yes,
She-Hulk.
the
But
She-Hulk.
like for me, a difficult.
She-Hulk was much better.
Yeah.
For me, it's difficult to look at this one page, and the size of her face changes.
That
and,
is
every
the-
But that's the
single,
point, right?
That is the
She
chibi.
becomes yes, exactly,
That
chibi.
is the-
She becomes like a little baby in some panels. Like one panel to the next, she becomes like a baby and then back to normal.
But
that is traditional chibi anime influence.
But it doesn't it doesn't work here, especially with.
I disagree, dude. I think that
think it
other
does
people
work.
other than us will find that it works. It just doesn't work for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocket Raccoon and
So
Groot
definitely
number
skip it.
Dude, that is a fucking full skip.
number one.
There is no hedging that bet.
by Scotty Young.
Full metal skip.
Full metal skip, dude. This is
Rocket Raccoon and Groot number one by Scotty Young and Felipe Andrade.
so. This is a buy if you don't have two toddler infants that you're and your wife isn't working. This is a buy. If you do have a wife that isn't working and you have two kids, this is a rent buy. This was a fucking great book that is just barely outside of my buy. Scotty Young does not do the art, although I felt like he influenced it a lot. But he wrote it, and fuck, did he do a hilarious story. Rocket Raccoon and Groot. Rocket Raccoon is on a campfire, and he's telling kids this story as Rocket Raccoon is wont to do. And Rocket Raccoon's story involves not Rocket, but Pocket and his shrubbery friend, Shrub instead of Groot, obviously, and how they are their own sort of bounty hunters in their own universe, a different multiverse. That's not really made clear. Anyway, it's a slightly more complicated, but not much more slightly. There's just there's some hilarious moments that almost makes me wish Scotty Young did more writing and less drawing, except that I would never actually say that because Scotty Young's drawing is so fucking awesome. But the writing was really good. It was a great story, very funny. I highly recommend that you read this book. Boom. Rent buy.
I will downplay Bryce by 20%, and you pretty much nail it for me. I liked it. It completely contradicts Rocket and Groot and all the other comics, but that's fine, whatever, I don't care.
Well, I'll take that. I fucking hate... Dude, there's so much... There's more Guardians shit than Inhumans shit. I can't take how much Guardians shit there is.
There's a lot of Guardians shit.
There is so much... There's more Guardians shit than Deadpool shit. There's a crazy amount...
Speaking of Deadpool shit,
the movie, there might be more Deadpool shit.
Yeah. It's a funny...
Do you think? That's tough because they don't own that.
It's a funny comic. I like the Rocket comic better than the Groot. This is sort of the best of both worlds, so I'm willing to go with this for a while. It definitely feels much more like the Rocket comic.
Well, that's the thing,
than
is
Groot
that
comic.
I thought it was fucking hilarious, and I'm not going to be picking up issue 2. Just because of my budget, but if I had more budget, this would be right up there in terms of the next one to get.
Charlie, this is a time to plug Patreon, right?
That would help.
So Bryce could get his rocket.
In terms of this particular book, I love silly comics. I've always loved silly comics, so yeah. I love this comic.
I read it. It was okay. I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, take it out of whatever's going on in the Guardian universe. It's fine.
It's a Rocket and Groot Looney Tunes cartoon-esque kind of thing. It is not a serious, we're saving the world Rocket and Groot.
Right.
Even though they tied it in at the beginning with Kitty Pryde Star-Lord.
What doesn't matter?
Yeah, but only
None of that matters.
Only to give them a thread to go apart.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Spider-Man Deadpool number 1 by Joe Kelly and Em McGinnis. A record, I got 7 pages into it. It's a Deadpool comic, so I don't know what you expect. I hate Deadpool. I just hate Deadpool. Dude, I can't read a comic with Deadpool in it.
Deadpool used to be so cool.
I hate him. I don't
know if you ever thought he was cool, but I used to love him like I used to love Bendis. By the way, I'm off the Bendis train. For those of you that have missed a couple episodes ago, I fucking cannot stand him anymore. As of Uncanny X-Men 600, I'm off the fucking Bendis train. Talk
about burning bridges.
Deadpool. Well, what?
Bendis burned a bridge with you.
Okay. So Anyway, Deadpool used to be so cool. He used to be such a badass, like, mercenary that also talks shit, and now he's just such a buffoon, and that happened years ago, and it's still happening, and, like, inexplicably, it's still selling. And, like, I feel like the Spider-Man team up with Deadpool has happened, like, 7 times, but they start a new comic like it's a new thing, and it's like, it's not a new thing. You've done this so many times for sales. Like, what the fuck? Like, how is this still happening where they're like, I have a... At the Marvel Summit, which writer is like, I've got an idea, guys? They're all drinking IPAs. I've got an idea, guys. I know that we're at a, there's a dearth of ideas of new content here at Marvel. But how about we have Spider-Man team up with Deadpool? Never been done.
You do realize they just go, well, we need a team-up book, and they spin the wheel.
It's got 2 sides, Spider-Man and Deadpool. Oh shit! It landed right in the middle. Use them both.
I think that actually Deadpool is the dial, and they just spin it, and they say like, okay, we're gonna have him team up with Squirrel Girl or Spider-Man or fucking.
Or they're playing roulette, right? And there's just a picture of everybody, and the ball, wherever the ball falls.
I don't know. Deadpool Apocalypse, Deadpool Hulk, Deadpool Iron Man.
Charlie,
I could go all day.
You liking this? You liking this Deadpool book at all? Deadpool Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There's.
Because Joe Kelly and McGinnis is where it started. I mean,
I like the fact that
dude, that's like Chris Claremont is where it started. Like, there's no more Chris Claremont. Like, goodness. By the way, whatever happened to that Nightcrawler book? Did it just go 4 issues and just sort of
like 9 issues or something?
No, it did not.
Yeah, it did. He stopped ordering it.
No, not in my mind.
Any event. So I was happy to see Joe Kelly coming back to do this, since I'm more of a writer guy. But there's just the way they've propped Deadpool up recently, between having a bazillion Deadpools and being a member of the Avengers, and now,
I fucking hate it.
There's this weird kind of disconnect where I'm like, what the fuck is Marvel doing? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I
Dude,
personally,
it sells. It's. I mean, what do you want? It sells. It's disgusting to us, but it
there's
sells books.
there is a disconnect in my brain that the minute you process Deadpool in the Avengers, like, my brain shuts down.
Well, it's because I mean, it's the merchandise, right? It's the only thing that keeps everything going. Is the sale of Deadpool merchandise.
Deadpool, the flamethrower. So we got 3 books here. Let's wrap this up. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. by Mark Guggenheim, and I don't even know who the artist is. Someone. Peralta. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a TV show that exists. I remember these characters from it when I watched it. I need to catch up on this season. It exists. It's the same characters from the show. I think they fought a guy. I think I remember some of these characters from, like, their relationships are kind of the same. He talked about Lola. Isn't that his car?
Don't feel like the relationships are that the same.
Well, the nerdy kid's going out with the Asian lady, or wants to, or something, and I don't know.
God,
like,
you're such a fucking troll, dude. If Arrow or Flash had a a TV related issue or series rather than like they did totally separate than they do. Like
this is not Harley Quinn. This is not what's a Marvel equivalent?
Dude, if fucking Flash or Arrow had like CWized comics done by DC, no,
I don't care about. I don't care about Agent May. I don't care about.
You would be like,
Fitzpatrick, Fitzgerald.
All I'm saying is that you wouldn't be talking Fitzsimmons.
I don't care about Fitzsimmons.
You wouldn't be talking half the shit that you are.
I don't care about Agent Coulson. I don't care about this fake ass Deathlock. And I'm like, well, we have to put Mockingbird in it because she's on the show, but it's not the same character. So, like, it's fine. I mean, if you like the show, you'll probably like the comic. It just feels like they don't do a good job explaining who anyone is. If you don't know the show, if you don't know the characters, you'd have no clue what was going on in this.
I don't know, Charlie. I mean, like, I'm trying to defend it, and Ryan's vitriolic bullshit aside, like,
what? You like this book?
No, if you would allow me to continue without Brock interrupting me, I would say that I would give it a skip. Although I'm
you're totally wrong. I totally agree with you.
No. What I'm saying is that you wouldn't say the same amount of shit about a Flash or Arrow comic book that was equally crappy. That's all I'm saying. And you are...
But I know Flash and Arrow, those are real characters. These are fake characters that were made for the TV show that they've shoved now into the comic books.
If there was an equally bullshit comic book, you wouldn't talk shit.
I'm just waiting for the internet to explode tomorrow, explaining to Ryan how the Flash is not necessarily a real...
He's a real character. This is better than... I'll give you one thing. This is better than the Mark Waid stuff, which is surprising. I like this issue better than Mark Waid stuff.
Either way, no. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. book is a skip because I am caught up on the show. I do like the show this season, but this has... It's trying to sort of fit this team and this tone into a world that...
It's trying to bridge, right?
Still has a active sort of shield and like it does not fit the way they're trying to make it fit.
Yeah, I mean,
much the way Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has to shoehorn itself into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're trying to shoehorn it into the Marvel Universe, and it doesn't work either way.
So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just can't shoehorn.
What does that? What does that even mean?
He just said it.
Captain Marvel #1. Finally,
this
after
one came out this week, I did not read this.
Okay, well, we'll talk real briefly about these two. Captain Marvel #1.
And Silver Surfer with their fucking double issue
By Michelle Fazekas and Tara Butters and Chris Anka, who I like Chris Anka, although art in here is not as good as some of the others. So this is now finally the introduction of Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, in her role as the leader of Alpha Flight, the replacement of SWORD, the international keeping America safe from aliens, who's also the other half of Civil War 2. It's Iron Man versus Captain Marvel, not Captain America. They announced that.
I saw that.
It's the whole immigration kind of.
Dude, can I have like a 30-second segue?
Yeah.
Just because you just reminded me.
Yeah.
If you guys go look at Bleeding Cool's article about reactions to Rebirth, I promise it's a very quick tangent. If you go look at bleedingcool.com's article on reactions to Rebirth, it says like fan reactions, and it has like probably like 100 Twitter reactions. Higgins is fucking on there twice, both sucking DC's dick. Like, oh, well, I really hope that this...
you go back and read my, 900 tweets prior to that?
No. I only read this one article because I got time. I don't even have time for what I actually did do. Less have time to read your other fucking a million pro-DC tweets. But all I'm saying is that, it's like Twitter reacts to DC's Rebirth, and then 2 of the 100, tweets were Higgins, and they were both like, wow, well, I hope that DC does some really cool stuff. This looks really exciting.
Go to Friday about 11 a.m.
And that was the first one. And then the second one was like, I'm really excited about this DC Rebirth.
Go back to Friday, about 9 a.m. to my first tweet on last Friday with 3 simple letters, FFS. That was my first reply to their relaunch. And then read my literally 50 or 60 tweets after that before...
Okay, well, somebody at Bleeding Cool was like, wow, I'm even nerdier than this guy. I got to figure out which tweet I'm going to repost. Because they copy-pasted a bunch of tweets.
Yeah, they always do. Yeah, go back and read my feed. Go back to Friday and read my feed. You'll be singing a different tune, buddy, because I was not happy.
Okay, well, first of all,
I call them out
you sure are changing your tune,
I call them out on a ton of shit that I've talked about on this podcast.
Well, was it because my train was delayed because it hit a person?
Probably.
Again?
Okay, go back to the... once a month is probably their average.
Captain Marvel. It's better than the others. Yeah. That's what I'll say. It's better than the last 3 #1s.
It's a readable Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it's all right. The whole Alpha Flight thing is kind of whatever. She's kind of whatever.
Did you guys already talk about Ultimates?
Better than the others. Ultimates is fantastic.
What?
What? Ultimates?
Yeah.
You didn't like Ultimates?
Dude, when they introduced... Look, I got really annoyed when they introduced...
Do you hate Blue Marvel?
I do not like Blue Marvel.
Yeah, I don't know who he is, but it's a great comic.
I only read #1. Now, when they introduced Amadeus Cho...
I fucking hate Amadeus
And,
Cho.
wait, hold on. Not in Ultimates, obviously, but they're like, yes, he's the 8th smartest person in the world. I was like... What the fuck? I can think of a dozen people that are smarter than
They've
this
always said that
12-year-old little guy that they just introduced to this issue. Okay, and then I'm reading Ultimates, and it's like Blue Marvel, super genius, one of the smartest people in the world, and I'm just like, where the fuck does he rank? He's talking about... I really like how they are sort of using that story, or if they've used other stories to introduce ISO 8, which they're using in all the video games, into the Marvel Universe. I do like that. That's actually really cool. But, where the fuck did Blue Marvel come from? And like, is that just a reaction because they wanted to name him Black Marvel and thought that would just be
he's
too
been around
racist?
for a while. And
Has he?
Yeah.
Where has he been? Where has he been?
A couple shitty miniseries that no one bought. And I don't know where they pulled this guy out of.
What was his first appearance like 2 years ago?
I honestly think it was like in the 40s, and then they they did like a new take on him.
They were like, well, in Civil War we killed Black Goliath. Well, let's bring this guy back, but we don't want to call him Black Marvel because of racism. Let's call him Blue Marvel because it's way less racist. It was just, I guess it rubbed me the wrong way that it was like, oh, okay, another like eighth smartest person. Like Marvel.
Wait, no, I'm totally wrong. His first appearance was 2008. I think it's like based on an old character. It's I swear I remember them saying
I
it was
just based on Black Goliath.
I just hate the fact that he looks like Black Lightning.
Yeah, and Black Goliath, like he, I don't know. This is that's like bordering on a racist thing to say. Look,
Black Goliath is dead. Wasn't he part of Damage Control?
He got blown up in
Civil War.
Civil War, yeah,
by the robot Thor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Civil War, by the way, if you haven't read it, great story. Go read it. One of Marvel's.
So we got to wrap up. So really quickly, I want to talk about Silver Surfer #1 with Charlie. I'm sure you love this issue. Dan Slott, Michael Allred.
Fucking Charlie, dude. Charlie's such a brand loyalist. Let me predict Charlie's review. Here we go. It was really good.
Well, hold on. I want to say, Charlie,
Dan Slott just really does it, and Mike Allred knocked it out the park.
Charlie, have you read Art Ops by Mike Allred for Vertigo?
No.
You should read especially the first issue after reading this and tell me what you think, because I think it's unintentionally a crossover between Marvel and Vertigo. I'm dead serious.
Silver Surfer is silver, just like Cable's arm. And
this is a great issue too, by the way. Silver Surfer #1.
I haven't read it yet.
It's great. The whole series has been great.
I'm excited about that. I'm not
I have
excited
a
about it.
stack of like 5 Surfer comics to read right now, so I haven't got to this one yet. No.
If you've read Art Ops #1, the whole idea of stealing art is the central point of this issue. Mike Allred did the art on both issues.
Art Ops is stealing art. This is stealing culture.
But it's a very similar concept. It's a weird, maybe probably unintentional Marvel Vertigo crossover. I think it's very funny. And if you like the previous Surfer series, you'll love this. Yeah. But now that we're at the very end, before we move on to say goodbye, I do want to say something about all these comic books I just talked about.
Which is that Extraordinary X-Men has been a great series so far.
The first 2, it's really bad. So
what are you talking about? Jeff Lemire is actually making X-Men good again.
It's a Marvel comic by Jeff Lemire. It's not good. So here we go. You
are just fucking worse than Brock.
I gotta catch up. But I do want to talk about this giant stack of comics I have in my
Can we
hand.
talk about the giant stack of comics and that I'm excited for Lego Avengers video game, which is on the back of every one of those comic books?
Star Brand Night Mask. Star Brand Night Mask. Kind of funny, kind of snarky. Bunch of kids doing funny stuff.
Yeah. That's a rent skip.
Weird. Well, hold on. Weird World. It's about a girl. It's kind of funny. It's kind of quirky. It's kind of weird. Uncanny X-Men.
That's a buy. That's a flat out buy.
Okay, probably your most legit comic in here.
Yeah.
A-Force, kind of funny, kind of weird, kind of quirky.
That's a rent buy. No, that's just a rent. About
a teenager. Hellcat, kind of funny, kind of quirky.
That's a fucking full skip.
Early 20s person.
I know where you're going. I'm going to
Rocket Raccoon, kind of funny, kind of quirky, kind of goofy, kind of weird.
That's a rent buy.
Spider-Man Deadpool, very quirky, very stupid.
That's a skip.
Funny to some people.
No, that's a full skip.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tries to be funny. That's
also a skip.
Quirky. Tries to be different.
Tries to be quirky. Captain Marvel, it's got pucks, so it tries to be funny. Kind of quirky, kind of funny, kind of weird. Silver Surfer, very funny, very quirky, very
more
weird.
than speaking to like how Marvel is, this is more speaking to like what a fucking curmudgeon you are, dude. Like, look, decade ago, Ryan Higgins would be like, it's got Puck in it. It's the fucking funniest book ever. Oh my god, he's got buck teeth and he spins and hits people. This is so awesome.
If I look across the wall, like, it's the entire Marvel universe. It's nearly every title.
Wait.
There's some that are more legit, typical superhero stuff.
Thor? No. Vision? No. Venom? No. Any X-Men titles? No. Squadron Supreme? No. Most of the Avengers titles? No. Uncanny Inhumans? No. You're fucking wildly wrong, dude.
No, I mean...
I just named half the fucking books up there, none of which have a quirky teenager. You just picked a bunch of teenager books and you were like, they're quirky and funny. Which, by the way,
these are all the #1s of chronological order from the last few weeks.
Yeah, I didn't pick these 2 weeks.
No, this is the last, 5 weeks.
That is... What
There's only been a couple each week. It's like 5 or 6 weeks worth. We haven't talked about them for a while.
No, that's just I have no backup, but that's just wrong.
A lot. Maybe not 50%. But
Double Dinosaur Moon Girl. No, like, yes, a teenager, but not quirky.
Drax,
what else does he have
Guardians.
Drax, like not a teenager and not quirky. Definitely just like aggro, silly. Like
Ant-Man, Uncanny Avengers.
Ant-Man is like mature,
new
funny.
Avengers, Star-Lord, Spider-Man,
New Avengers
Spidey,
has teenagers in it.
2099, Spider-Woman, Squirrel Girl, Web Warriors.
I wouldn't put 29.
A little all-new X-Men,
Wait.
a little all-new Wolverine.
Hold on,
a lot of these titles.
Can we expand the scope of your fucking like panties in a bunch up your crotch? Like
Jesus,
you're just like hating. So
no, I'm not hating.
To be clear, you are pointing out in a cheeky manner
surprised
that Marvel is hedging their bets on quirky teenagers. Is that basically? We're going to net it out. Can we just net it out like men?
If DC has too many experimental books that are that Batgirling effect,
I don't think that's the case at all. If anything, they have too many fucking Bat books.
Do you listen to this podcast?
Yeah.
Do you comprehend words that I say and retain them in your long-term memory?
Well, difficultly.
Okay, I've been talking about this for months now.
Okay.
Marvel seems to have gone very heavy comparatively to the past.
I listen to this podcast, and I listen to words that you say. That doesn't make them
and you
right.
interpret them on your own method.
Yes, and that also doesn't make them accurate.
Marvel has gone
You just got the
fairly heavy
And my kid, actually.
into this funny, weird, quirky, teenage, goofy, 20-something, less than serious type of comics. Now, maybe it's going to be great, maybe not. I don't know. I'm just saying I find it interesting that they're pushing this hard on this style of comics.
Right now,
so your fucking argument of the whole past 10 minutes is that you find it interesting? That's your fucking, like...
Interesting.
That's your flag in the ground?
Marvel doesn't have like a Hickman Fantastic Four or a Brubaker Cap. Like, there's no...
What about the fucking current Daredevil? That's
I would
not
say
quirky or funny. That's very serious.
There's a couple. Again,
There's a couple,
I think
but
Ultimates, Daredevil to a degree, even the X-Men stuff and the Avengers stuff.
You guys should have fucking like Chinese handcuffs on your dicks to each other. Like, you just agree with each other for no good reason.
And Thor, which you said earlier, Thor is very serious.
All of the X-Men
Doctor
books.
Strange is now a quirky, funny, weird 20-something.
Yeah.
He's
not a 20-something dude.
40-something.
But he is quirky, but like, I mean, look,
Howard
Doctor
the
Strange
Duck.
and quirky. How are you going to hate on
Hulk?
Like, are you hating on Howard the Duck for like being quirky?
I like Howard the Duck.
Just
What
because
I'm
they
saying
relaunched a bunch of stories and they like cut off like Nova and they add. Oh, they still have Nova.
There is a lot of these type of books, but that is enough.
The list
for
that I
this.
just read, and I can do it again. Like, half of the books are not. There are a bunch because like that sells with like the new. I mean, you are the fucking like biggest old man, dude. You complain about like
I'm not complaining. I'm saying
I know you're saying it's interesting. Yeah, the fucking like lamest argument ever. Like, you want to get new readers. You're talking earlier about how you want to get new readers into comics, and the only way to do that is to increase the quantity or the quality. So that we can get like an influx of not only quality but also quantity of new readers to keep the industry healthy and alive. And the way that you do it is you have a fucking like series of books or a line of books that appeal to fucking teenagers of your high school across the street.
I'm not buying these books.
Dude, I mean, really?
No, not at all.
Look,
the early 20-somethings might like them, but these kids aren't.
Okay, so I'm not the retailer. I'm not going to like argue with you that they are. But what I'm saying is that they're trying to get new audience. Very obviously, you're not wrong. There's a huge influx of
I'm surprised you're leaning
or quirky characters in the new line.
I'm surprised you're leaning so heavy.
I think that it's very obvious and very fair play to get new audience.
I'm surprised you're leaning so heavy on the one model. I'm surprised there's not more diversity in what they're doing, because there seems to be some legit superhero stuff and this kind of funny, quirky, weird teenage stuff, and there's like, I'm surprised.
Dude, I think it's Venn diagrams. I think that there's like a circle for quirky, a circle for teenager, a circle for like cheeky, and a circle for like, you know, frankly, LGBT, and they're like all of these four circles like intersect in a bunch of different ways, and they have one book for each. And that's what they're saying. I
was hoping to have been home and this podcast posted and like walk my dogs and taken a nap by now.
Well, you knew that I was coming. You should have fucking known better.
Well, you're train should have realized you had a podcast to come to and not kill the person. So.
Dude, it's crazy how many podcasts I've been late and or missed because of the fucking Caltrain.
You should drive a car like a human being.
I'm just laughing because I got a text from Ryan while I was still at home, like, I want to start as soon as possible
6.
so I can get...
Oh, I was on my normal train.
And now it's fucking 9:30, so-
I'm here, and you guys can attest to this. Usually I'm here waiting for,
Yeah.
okay, I'll do a Bryce briefly because you guys aren't fucking ready because Ryan's putting together the books. The books aren't fucking here, so Ryan's like, oh, well, the books aren't here, so I'm just going to get started, like, fucking immediately.
I did. So we're going to end now. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this podcast.
Marvel's better
Bryce,
than DC.
thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
Everyone, thank you.
Patreon.
Of course I'm going to thank Patreon. I've got them right here in front of me here. We have Albert Soy, his app plant everywhere on iTunes.
Needs to be on Android.
And the App Store. Don't forget to check that out. Jody Lawson at Canon, the Triad Comics Anthology at triadcomicstudio.com. And our good friend Manoa Place. They have nothing to pimp other than their name. And that's all that they need to say. So there you go. If you want to be on next month's episode of Patreon, I believe next week should be the January episode for backers. So go on patreon.com/comic conspiracy and go ahead and back us. All our previous episodes.
Help Bryce get that Rocket Raccoon.
Give Bryce some extra money to buy a Rocket Raccoon.
No. I have a bunch that are on the bubble. I do have a bunch that are in the rent buy bubble. That is not at the top of that bubble.
That was my bad.
All of our previous episodes are available at geekbox.net and on iTunes.
Sure he,
don't forget to.
I hear clicks, and I'm not sure if he pauses us.
Don't forget to
He's
rate,
reading through the
okay.
rate, and review us.
I'm
on
always
iTunes.
not sure. Is he pausing when I talk?
Forums.geekbox.net and the Geekbox and Comic Conspiracy Facebook group on Facebook. Go on there and talk to all of our fellow listeners and us as well. Digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. You can go buy digital comics. ConspiraBrock.com, that's Brock's blog and video pull list on this week.
Be delayed.
Infinite Long Glass Podcast and The Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension Podcast, Charlie's other podcasts. Go on there and listen to those when those are up.
Okay, can somebody tell me while Ryan's thinking about the next thing to say because it's not written down? What happened to Hope? Please tell me because I don't know. Because what the fuck? And second of all, I thought that Archangel with Jason Aaron's Wolverine and X-Men. Archangel was wasn't Archangel, and that he was like a buffoon, and then that's a really attractive sound. So Archangel was actually Angel, and then he was an idiot, and he was this sort of buffoon.
Don't forget
guy.
Twitter.
Charlie, can you back me up? Wasn't he this really nice?
I really have no clue how they got to where they are now.
And then all of a sudden he's
right.
back to Archangel and he's mind wiped. Did I miss an issue? Can somebody that listens to this please post and explain what happened?
We will tell you.
But I would love to hear about Etsy, Ryan.
Etsy.com/shop/Leanne Hill Art. That's where you can go buy my wonderful wife's art on there. Twitter, Ryan Higgins, Ryan Brock, Sager, Larson, Bryce, Toby, XI, Insanity, and Chaos. Go follow us all on there. Geekbox Comedy Button, Good Job Brain, I'll Talk Podcast. So there's the other podcasts on our podcast network, and I'm going to go home now. Goodbye.